Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Sunday Q&A. That was very similar to what we're going to get out of the 2S 75mm O4 Lite rigs. What you were just watching is this custom build that we've been working on for the last, I don't know, 6+ months with Walksnail, which... Matt, I have to make a huge correction from Friday's stream. Thanks to Crom over on my Discord, he managed to get his O4 Lite already and put it on an actual scale. Team Honos, thank you for subscribing to the channel, friend. It's looking like the O4 Lite is only going to actually be 1 extra gram heavier than the Walksnail Lite. For the record, when I say O4 Lite, what I mean is just the regular, they just call it the O4. It's not the O4 Pro, it's just the regular O4. I will be calling it the O4 Lite because it's designed to be outrageously light, and it just makes more sense that way, okay? And so, yeah, like, when I give the weight, so when I talk about the Walksnail Lite setup, the weight that I give is 6 grams, 6 extra grams. That's what we talk about as the payload, right? It's the VTX, the camera. 6 grams is no antenna because regardless of what video system you run, you have to run an antenna, right? And so to me, the antenna weight is not factored into the payload, because you have to run it regardless, right? And the reason that we're talking about payload with the Walksnail Lite is that there are AIOs available with analog built in. So for an analog tiny whoop or 3-inch or whatever, in that case, there is almost, you know what I mean? Like it's built right in. There's no additional weight, right? And analog tiny whoops are kind of like the standard, right? That's what we've been flying forever. And so when I've always said 6 grams, it's actually 6 point something grams, but I can't remember decimal point places. The 6 extra grams for the Walksnail Lite is only referencing the camera, the MIPI cable, and the actual board itself. Once you factor in the antenna, the 30 gauge cables, it ends up being 8 point something grams. And Crom put his O3 Lite on the scale, and it was like 9 point something grams. So I'm kind of waiting until mine shows up, which God only knows when it'll be. I ordered it the day that it came out from Get FPV, which is only one state away. But then the following day, we got 1 inch of snow here in Georgia, and the entire South lost its... not the whole South. The entire state completely lost its mind. And everything has been shut down since Thursday, which is completely annoying because I've got a mailbox full of stuff waiting to go out to you guys from the giveaways from the first Monday of every month, from the 12-hour Christmas live stream that we did. And so, yeah, annoyed at that. But eventually, oh my God, Ian's in the chat and he says, if you want weights, I can give them now, man. Dude, yes, please, please, please. Ian, if you can give me the weight of just the board, I will weigh this. I have plenty of Walksnail Lite VTXs that have blown up on me. I'm at 4 now. I will weigh a Walksnail Lite VTX with and without grommets. Well, this one... I have one with it. Yeah, dude, that would be amazing. If you can give me the weight of the camera, and the cable, and then the weight of just the actual board, that would be absolutely amazing. So let's take a quick look at the weight. Hey, I'm going to jump into chat and we're going to talk about some stuff in a minute, but let's just dive right into this because we've got Ian. And that's amazing. By the way, guys, if you're not subscribed to Mads Tech, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? You need to be subscribed to Mads Tech. Ian is amazing. He's hysterical. He is a wealth of knowledge and just super nice guy. A nice human being here on Earth. 5.26 grams for the Walksnail Lite with the heat spreader thing removed. What did I just say? Call it 5.25. That's easy to remember. 5.25. With the heat spreader on and rubber grommets. Good Lord. The little heat spreader thing. I don't know if it's actually called a heat spreader. I call it a heat sink, but then somebody called it a heat spreader, and now for some reason I've been saying heat spreader. The heat spreader, I believe, is 1.2 grams. I didn't realize the rubber grommets were this heavy. With the rubber grommets and the heat spreader, 7.25 grams. 2 full extra grams. That's kind of crazy. To everybody subscribing, welcome. I have one of the little heat sinks here. I saved one of them so that I could weigh it. For the record, I might be getting completely away from Walksnail. These 3 blown up Walksnail Lite VTXs all together have less than, I think, 100 batteries on them. I've got 2 of these Walksnail Lites on 1S whoops that have actually lasted a while, but I haven't flown them much. I don't know, man. I've been having a hell of a time with these Walksnail Lite VTXs, and it's not from crashing. It's not from too much voltage going through them. They're just randomly dying. DJI stuff is like the complete opposite of that, in that like you kind of can't kill it. And so if the O4 Lite is really only 1 extra gram, ooh, that might be sort of the kiss of death for me, at least, for Walksnail. There's lots of stuff that Walksnail does well. I really like the Walksnail Lite system when it works, but it needs to work. And like this 2S rig, I never fly it because it's always down. Because this is the 4th Walksnail Lite, and this one might actually be my fault, that has let go. The previous 3 were not my fault. I absolutely love Walksnail, and I want their stuff to work so bad, and I would love, and I probably will, keep one of these Walksnail 65mm tiny whoops together, but, like, man, it's been rough. I feel like I feel like I've gotten really behind on a lot of other stuff because all I'm doing is taking apart Walksnail rigs and putting them back together. Like, this 2S 75mm Walksnail rig is so much fun to fly, but, like, I fly 5 or 10 batteries and then the VTX dies for no reason. And then I spend a bunch of time swapping it and then it happens again. Oh my god, Madstech just put the O4 Lite by itself, just like this, on the scale, and the scale says 5.5 grams. And when I put this Walksnail light with the heatsink removed on the scale, it says 5.2 grams. The O4 light board is lighter than the Walksnail light board, because this has the heatsink removed, which is not a great idea. It overheats in like 20-something seconds or 30-something seconds with the camera is heavier, though. The O4 camera is 1.84 grams. I don't have one floating around here, but I can all but guarantee you that the Walksnail light camera is lighter weight, because the cable is 0.4 grams. Ian, thank you so much, dude. My god, super helpful. Ian is posting these over on my Discord, which is linked over at CiottiFPV.com if you want to see the actual pictures of his scale. Render correctly saying Bardwell says the O4 light overheats in like 30 seconds in his new video. Yeah, all these digital VTXs are going to overheat really fast. The other reason that removing the heatsink from the O4 Lite is a bad idea is because it's a son of a bitch to get off of there, and you have to really pry on it to get it off, which is, with how fragile these are, like, that's not a good idea. So, yeah. Okay. Well, so the live stream I did Friday was called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with DJI O4. And the only ugly was the extra weight. When I thought that it was 10 grams, that's an extra 4 grams. At the time, in my head, that was an extra 4 grams over Walksnail light. What I'm realizing now is that it's not. It's not at all. Antenna, camera, cable, connector to connector cable, if you decide to go plug and play from the VTX to an AIO, which we're going to talk about the AIOs that are available here. That's the main topic of this live stream. 9.26 grams on Ian's scale. So, yeah. DJI O4 Lite. I said on the last live stream that the O4 Lite is not a Walksnail killer. Yes, it is! Yes, it is. It is. Ian is also giving these weights without the little cover on the camera. I think the little cover on the camera might add a fraction of a gram, but the long and short of it here is that it's about 1 extra gram. 1 extra gram on a 65mm 1S rig is not nothing, but it's not nearly enough to ooh, and Crom just took a weight of the you guys need to go over to my Discord. I'm gonna shill. CiottiFPV.com is my little Linktree website. Streaming schedule is right here. Patreon helps me the absolute most. If you like these live streams and you want to continue, this is completely crowdfunded so that when I review stuff, I can talk shit about it. And you guys don't ever have to wonder, like, oh, is he just not being mean about something because he needs that company to send him more stuff? No, never the case. If a company wants to send me something, I tell them flat out, if this is not good, I'm going to trash on it. You have to understand that. That's how I do business. A lot of the companies then don't send me anything. So yeah, I rely on you beautiful people. Hopefully I've earned your support. Hopefully I've kept you from buying something that would have not been good, and you know, that money you can maybe throw my way. You can jump onto the Patreon for as little as $3 a month. That's 10 cents a day. I do 10 hours of live streaming a week, every single week. That's something like 7.5 cents per hour of live stream. So at some point, I will help you not buy something. Hook a brother up and join the Patreon. There's also a ton of benefits. There's some great tech articles on the Patreon that I and other folks have written. You get full access to the Discord. You get a YouTube playlist with like some sketchy flying that I don't want public. Some Patreon-only live streams. Some of the sim racing that I do every so often. Not so much lately, but yeah, lots of good stuff going on. Etsy has some really fun stuff that you can buy. Some stickers, some hardware, other random stuff that supports me there as well. Fiverr, you can work one-on-one with me. I've got over 8 years in the hobby. I've been doing professional gig work for well over 3 years. I can help you fly better. I can teach you how to tune and get your rigs tuned up in the process. Or we can work on build planning so that you stop buying things that catch on fire. And design a build that specifically works for what you want to do. Do you crash into the grass or do you crash into concrete? There's a completely different set of gear for each one of those scenarios. Do you want 4 minutes of flight time or 5 minutes of flight time? There's all these things. The reason to custom build is because you want to build a rig that's specific for how you fly, where you fly, when you fly, all these things. And the build planning sessions are how we dial in on that. The only other way to dial in on that is to spend tens of thousands of dollars. And I've done that, so let me help you not have to do that. Although it is kind of fun to buy lots of stuff and try lots of stuff. But yeah, I can save you a ton of money through Fiverr. If you don't want to go through Fiverr, you can just message me. All my contact info is up on top. Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, email, all the good stuff. Get in touch with me. I use Instagram the most, but yeah, some other spots I'll eventually get back to you. Teespring has some fun shirts and other random apparel. PayPal if you want to support me directly, but you don't want to do a super chat because you know that Google will take 30%. And then look at all these affiliate links, yo. If you don't use my affiliate links, use someone else's. Most websites have an affiliate program. Those of us that create content here on YouTube rely on the affiliate programs. If you're using Honey or anybody you know is using Honey, get them to remove it. Honey is stealing affiliate sales from people. They're basically like a shitty salesman that, like, after you've talked to the main salesman for a half an hour, comes up to you right before the register and goes, hey, you want me to see if I can save you 5% on your TV that you just talked to that guy for a half an hour for? And you're like, yeah, see if you can save me 5%. And then the swarmy salesman's like, nah, I can't, sorry. Here's my card, give this to the cashier. And then he steals the sale. That's what Honey is doing. It's not cool. Get everybody that you know to stop using it. It's gross. Use someone's affiliate links, my friends. It helps us keep making stuff on YouTube for you to watch for free. The easiest way to use affiliate links, and the only way that I can remember, is that I've replaced all of my bookmarks with either my own or someone else's affiliate links. If you don't use bookmarks, if you just type AMA into your URL bar when you want to go to Amazon, every single browser will like suggest your most popular link that you go to that begins with AMA. What you can do is remove those suggestions. If you're using Chrome, it's right here on the right. There's a little X. You can remove that suggestion. So type AMA, and then it'll say, like, you know, Amazon.com. Remove that suggestion, and then come in here and just hit someone's affiliate link a few times in a row, and that'll tell your browser that when you type AMA, you actually want to look at what I call the nut grabber on Amazon, which is my affiliate link. And then you don't have to remember to use people's affiliate links because it is a pain. Every time you check out, the affiliate link gets wiped out. So you literally have to remember every single time you're going to do an order on a website to use someone's affiliate link. So change your bookmarks or change your URL bar suggestions. I know the URL bar suggestions take some time to change, so just do one. Do one every live stream, and before you know it, you'll have changed all your stuff, and you'll be supporting people that make stuff that you like to watch on YouTube without even thinking about it. I have affiliate links for Amazon, Get FPV, Pyro Drone, Race Day Quads, Newbie Drone, We Bleed FPV, Beta FPV, FPV Cycle, Hisingi, oh my god, Brain 3D, HDZero, Flywoo, Max Banggood, Camera Butter, AliExpress. Use someone's affiliate links, my friends. It makes a huge difference, and it allows us to make cool stuff for us all to watch and learn and do all the good things together. Cool? What were we talking about? Things? Yeah, the Discord. If you scroll down a little bit farther, there's a link to the Discord. And in the general nonsense text channel, which is open to everyone, there are some Patreon-only text channels over on my Discord that you're going to have to give me 10 cents a day to get access to. But general nonsense is one of the main ones that's open to anybody. Crom and Ian from Mads Tech are posting all of the weights that we want. Which is amazing. But the long and short of it is, DJI O4 Lite is about 1 gram heavier. 1 gram is not nothing, but boy oh boy, am I fed up with the lack of quality control with these Walksnail Lite VTXs. In fairness, Walksnail does have a repair service. If some of their stuff fails, like if you buy something of theirs and it fails like right away, they'll probably fix it or replace it for free. I typically don't buy something and then build with it right away. And so I'm way out of that window for this stuff. When you're out of that window, from what I've been told, it's basically 50% of the value of the item. So I will probably send these in for repair/replacement, and then I think the Walksnail Lite system is like 70 or 80 bucks, so it'll be like $35 or $40 per. Or you can buy DJI stuff that like you can machine gun and it manages to never die. I've never had a single DJI component let go. I don't understand how they're so durable. I do understand how they're so durable. It's a big company, and they're spending time and effort and money on QC and whatnot. But yeah, really the only other ugly with the O4 Lite is that it won't take direct 1S voltage. So these builds that I've got for 1S with Walksnail Lite at the moment will not work with O4. What I would have to do is get a 5-volt step-up regulator and run it externally, which on a tiny whoop sucks because it adds a significant amount of weight. It's going to add like another gram or 2 of weight, and we're already adding 1 gram, and it's hard to package. It's hard to find a spot for that, right? These builds are very tight. But Beta FPV is about to launch a new F4 5 amp, I think. It might be 12 amp, actually, but a new AIO that's super lightweight. It's cut down like this old school AIO that we've used a ton, with a 5-volt BEC on board. And a plug header, so that you'll actually be able to just plug and play the O4 Lite with the cable that it comes with, which is pretty gnarly. The only real complaint that I have about that AIO is that they put that plug header up on top, and so packaging is going to kind of be a pain in the ass. I have looked pretty closely, as close as I can, at the bottom of the O4 Lite AIO from the pictures that are on the internet right now, and it looks like the bottom of the O4 Lite, not AIO, VTX, it looks like it's pretty flat. There are no like big plugs sticking down that are going to make a nightmare for us trying to stack these two boards on top of each other. So we should be okay. I wish that they had put that JST plug on the bottom, because on the bottom of these AIOs where the battery is, we have plenty of space, right? That's where all the racers used to put their VTXs. And so it's like wasted space down there. So, I mean, no, you can't flip the AIO upside down because, well, you could flip the AIO upside down, but never mind. No, you can't because there's a USB port down there. Sorry, never mind. Nope, you can't flip the AIO upside down. The USB port would be sticking up, and that's much taller. Also, the motor plugs are there. Yeah, all right, you can direct side of the motors. Don't. It's a nightmare. It just makes serviceability such a pain in the ace. And so, yeah, that seems a little short-sighted, but welcome to FPV. So, yeah, that's still a thing. But, I mean, very soon, you'll be able to buy a frame, motors, screw the motors down, an AIO, you plug the motors into the AIO, a 4K VTX with camera that you'll be able to plug into the AIO. The canopy situation is we're gonna see. You know, right, it just came out, so of course there's not a whole lot of canopies. There already are a couple canopies starting to pop up. Rest assured, I will begin bugging the shit out of Timmons sooner than later to do a version of the Batwing mount that we've been using for the O4 Lite that's going to work on the, the Walksnail Lite that's going to work on the O4 Lite camera. So yeah, as soon as possible, we will have a ultra minimalistic, super, as lightweight as possible little TPU mount that hooks onto the front, well, that hooks onto the hooks of the Cockroach 65 V3 frame and puts the camera up here, holds the camera nice and level, prevents the camera from rotating sideways like you get from some of the carbon fiber frames out there that you should stay away from, so that you can have a build that's nice and lightweight and performs as good as possible on 1S, right? Like the extra weight of the Walksnail system, which is 1 less gram, it looks like, than the DJI O4 Lite, it has a huge impact on the way that 1S rigs fly. And you could argue, and you would not be wrong, that 1S is a no-go for the DJI O4 Lite. This is the little guy that I use to chase the RC drift cars. And the difference in flight performance with this one that's got Walksnail on board versus the two that I've got that are analog only is unbelievable. This is still totally flyable, and this is very fun. But I can do much more with the analog rigs that are basically 6 grams lighter. Ooh! You know what? I bet you that's where the 6 gram number comes from. Hold on. Let's weigh them. This is a perfect way to look at the actual weight difference between analog and Walksnail, right? Like that's what matters. What it doesn't actually matter what the O4 Lite system weighs. What matters is when you do a build with the AIO that you need, the frame that you need, the motors that you need, right? When you do an O4 Lite 65mm tiny whoop, or in this case, a Walksnail Lite 65mm tiny whoop, the dry weight, with all the things that you're going to put on it, versus the dry weight of analog, that's what matters, right? That's what the system weighs. That's what the extra payload is. So, let's just call it 24.5 grams. It's actually 24.4. 24.5 grams with Walksnail. Analog, 18.5. There's your 6 grams, my friends. These two builds both have 0702 motors. They're both on Cockroach V3 frames. Slightly different propellers, but they weigh about the same. They've both got the Batwing mounts. They both have TrueRC singularity antennas. This is on a This is on a Mobula 6 2024 AIO. This is on the Beta FPV AIO that doesn't have a an analog VTX in it, right? And that's why it matters. This AIO is a little bit lighter because it doesn't have a VTX built in. This AIO is a little bit heavier because it does have, right? And so, like, there is an actual weight for an analog VTX, obviously. You know what I mean? And so that's where my 6 gram... after the last live stream, when I saw Crom weigh those things, I had like an existential meltdown of like, man, how dumb am I? I've been saying 6 grams all this time. Where the hell did I get 6 grams from? Here's where I got 6 grams from. And yeah, that's great. So in that same vein, well, we have to wait. So we have to wait to see what the Beta FPV AIO is going to weigh. It will probably not be quite as lightweight as this AIO here, because this AIO does not have a 5-volt BEC and that JST plug up on top. So we're going to gain roughly 1 gram from O4 Lite versus Walksnail Lite. And then we're probably going to gain a fraction of a gram from... That is probably going to be the lightest weight AIO. And it'll probably be ever so slightly heavier than this AIO that I'm running in this guy. So yeah, we'll probably gain, my guess would be 1.5 grams. The reliability of DJI and the fact that we will have 4K and 1080 up to 120 frames a second, that's kind of sort of game over for me. I like Walksnail a lot. I like them a little bit less every single time one of these light AIOs die, VTXs die. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Alliances only go so far. I think Walksnail is still probably the right solution for some people, though. But that's not what this stream is about. We'll do a stream in the future, really diving into, yeah, who Walksnail is for. Because there's always, you know, the DJI O4 stuff is, it's not going to be a Walksnail killer. There are going to be some scenarios where it's going to be a better option than Walksnail, for sure. But it's not going to like wipe Walksnail off the face of the earth. That's silly. So yeah, get that out of your head. But for me, and look, I have an O4 Pro on the way as well. That I'm going to be building into a brand new Cinesplore in the Cinesplore 2 frame. And so which I'm super excited about, because that'll be a Cinesplore that doesn't have to carry around an action camera. So I'll be saving 120 grams, which is insane. And so for me, right, I have to buy Goggles 2 or Goggles 3. It bugs the shit out of me, even though I'm a live streamer or whatever. It bugs the hell out of me to have analog goggles, HDZero goggles, Walksnail goggles, DJI version 1 goggles, DJI version 2 goggles, Goggles 2, right? It's just so obnoxious. And for me, and also, like, I don't necessarily have the money to dump into a whole bunch of these O4 VTXs and a new set of goggles. For me, there is going to be, and already is, a massive temptation to sell the Walksnail goggles, sell all of the Walksnail stuff that I have, get the light VTXs repaired, and then move those along and use that money to fund new DJI O4 stuff. Especially because I will finally now be upgrading my live broadcast setup that I've been using for America Criterium Cup, National Cycling League over the past few years into 1080 output. And that's going to be expensive. That's going to mean Cosmo streamer, you know, new set of goggles, of course. So yeah, I'm going to need to shift some money around, you know, that up. So my current live broadcast setup is on old school DJI. And the new, you know, Cosmo streamer is going to be like $600, right? Like a set of either goggles 2 or goggles 3 is going to be another 200, 300, 400. I'm going to have to buy at least 1 or 2 more O4 Pros, which are expensive. I'm probably going to fall down the rabbit hole and get with the O4 Lite stuff and get at least 1 more O4 Lite. So yeah, for me personally, the O4 stuff is amazing. But I'm flying professional gigs. For those of you that are not flying professional gigs, what is the draw of O4 over Walksnail? If your Walksnail stuff is not, if you're not dealing with the failure rates that I'm dealing with on Walksnail, the latency is about the same. The video quality it's not about the same, but like, why does it matter, right? For 99% of people, 99% of people are not doing gig work. And so what does it matter if you have 4K versus 1080? Is that going to make your enjoyment of flying any different? In the goggles, it's 1080 anyway. What does it matter when you come back to your computer that your DVR is in 4K versus 1080 if you're flying for fun? If you have an answer to that question, that's totally fine. That's completely fine. But I'm challenging you right now to really ask yourself that question. Because if that footage is just going to sit on your desktop and you're going to show your friends and family, they don't give a shit. Like, if you think that in the future, you know, it's funny, the Fiverr sessions, the build planning sessions on Fiverr, I have this big long list of questions that I ask everybody to get dialed in on the perfect build for them. A bunch of those questions are surrounding, like, what do you do with your flight footage? What is the future for FPV for you? Are you getting a whole bunch of footage that you're going to cut together in a reel and then you're going to try to get professional gig work? If so, the DJI O4 system is important to you. If not, does it really matter? Walksnail is great. It's cheaper, it's lighter in some cases, right? Like I mean, it's a little bit lighter on the Walksnail Lite, but when you look at like the other Walksnail stuff, like, you know, their regular single stack 25 by 25, this is lighter than the DJI O4 Pro. Flying a lighter rig, you're going to get more runtime. You're going to get to do the thing that you love more per battery, and it's, you know, like, it's going to fly better. It's literally going to fly better because it's lighter. So I you know, nothing against Walksnail at all, but for me personally, for my needs, I have a funny feeling that it's all going to go. But don't just blindly follow me on that. You make sense, right? Don't just, like, Walksnail's made some really cool products, and they have the repeater. They're doing a great thing. Much like HDZero, I absolutely love that Walksnail exists. It's just that at this point, I don't know if it's the right system for me. And I have a limited budget, and so selling the goggles, selling a bunch of the VTXs is probably what's going to happen. But again, if you have Walksnail and you love it, that's totally cool. I have loved it up until a few days ago, and I actually kind of still love it. But a new challenger has arrived, and I think when I really weigh out all the pluses and minuses, that it makes sense for me to swap over. Madstech says, question for you, Ciotti. Why did you choose Avatar over HDZero for non-pro work? To me, HDZero has none of the benefits and kind of all of the negatives, basically. So like when I look at like analog, it's the cheapest, it's the lightest weight, it's the most reliable. It's been around forever, totally known quantity. I still have professional, so these two rigs right here, I bring on professional gig work, and they are both analog. If there's something weird going on with the DJI stuff, I can fire up analog and I can fly. It's like a known quantity, it's done. HDZero has been super buggy for me. The goggles have been buggy. Multiple different versions of the firmware have not really changed that. And then the video quality of HDZero is not good enough to warrant the extra weight, the extra cost, and the extra bugginess, right? So then we've got Walksnail, which does have the better video quality, right? And the better link as well. So like, I love that Walksnail exists, and for some people, Walksnail is... I'm sorry, not Walksnail, HDZero, sorry. I love that HDZero exists. I love what they're doing, and for some people, it's perfect. I'm not one of those people, unfortunately, and my experience with it has not been great. And so, yeah, the HDZero is stuck in this weird middle ground where, like, the video quality is a little bit better than analog, but it's not enough better to warrant the negatives, mainly the extra cost and the extra weight. You know, the AIO 5 is phenomenal. Most advanced, you know, PCB that we've ever had in FPV, but it's been flaky for me, and like it's also significantly heavier than analog. Even though it's only a couple of grams on a 65mm tiny whoop, that's a massive difference. There's a big difference in the way that the AIO flies versus all of the analog rigs. So yeah, it's been HDZero has kind of been heartbreaking for me because like I want to love it, I really do, and like I've had people message me like, why do you hate HDZero so much? It's like, yo, you're completely wrong. I love HDZero, but I'm not somebody that just jumps on the bandwagon and is just like such and such for life just because. Like it has to perform, and it has to be at the right price point and right, and like I'm a super, I guess the word is pragmatic person in those respects. And I've visited HDZero, I've revisited, and every single time I'm just left wanting a little bit more. But I am a very specific human being here on Earth, right? I do this crazy live streaming thing. I fly professional gigs. I have multiple sets of analog goggles. This is one of the really interesting things, right, that people never think about, is that for somebody brand new coming into the hobby, buying a set of analog goggles is kind of crazy. And so like buying an HDZero set of goggles and then just skipping analog completely, that makes an awful lot of sense. I'm not that guy. You know, I've got 2 sets of analog goggles, an analog monitor, right? An analog to USB VRX, right? Like I'm all the way in. I have a whole bunch of analog stuff just sitting here, so it's free for me. Somebody that's new coming into the hobby, that's a totally different situation. And so, yeah, and like, yes, the HDZero goggles will also work with analog, but you got to spend $100 on an analog module for them. $100 is a lot of money. And so, yeah, I am a very, very specific use case. Sorry, that's what happens whenever stupid jargon gets introduced to my world. And so, yeah, like, you all have to make these decisions for yourself. You have to, you know, have that, like, mental pros and cons list to figure out what is... And this is why I'm so obnoxious about saying there is no best. There's only different. There really isn't. There, you know, in today's live stream, I made sure to put best AIO for DJI O4 Lite in quotations because that's me poking fun at it. There very, very, very rarely is there a best. Every once in a while there is, and we might actually be in that situation today because, and I gotta get us on the topic here. It's been 50 minutes already. We've been ranting and raving. I gotta get us on the topic. Today's main topic is what is the best AIO for the DJI O4 Lite for a DJI O4 Lite 2S 75mm build. These 2S 75mm builds are the most fun. Where's the other one? These are the most fun that I have had flying in FPV in like probably about a year. 2S on 75mm with BT 3.0 on these lightweight builds is absolutely outrageous. In the front of your house, behind your house, at a jungle gym, sort of even inside the house, but it's a little heavy to fly inside the house. Go 65 1S for inside the house. It's the way. But oh my god, these things in the front of this house are so much fun. They have the exact right amount of power. They're the exact right weight. They take your front garden, they take the front face of your house, they take your roof of your house, and they turn it into a much bigger location. Like, if you take a 5-inch rig and you go fly an office building that's like 5 stories tall, and it's got these like big 100-foot trees out front, that is like the flight experience that so many of us have really fallen in love with. Or even just, you don't have to have the office building. You know, I'm in Atlanta, so like I'm very spoiled. But like if you go out to a field and there's 100-foot tall trees, right, and big amounts of space, a 5-inch rig is so good. And that, you know, obviously they're totally dialed in. The 5-inch propeller size is as big as you can go for the plastic that we make our propellers out of. When you go to like 6 and 7-inch, that plastic starts to resonate at frequencies that make the PID loop and the filters lose their mind, right? And so like 5-inch propellers are magical, and that like kind of trickles down into the rest of the build. The amount of R&D that the entire FPV community has put into 5-inch builds over the last 10 years is unmatched, right? Like, we've probably spent more time as a community testing and dialing in 5-inch rigs than every other prop size combined, right? And so 5-inch rigs, the builds themselves are utter magic. And then when you fly them in a big open-ish area with big tall obstacles, it's perfect. The speed, the acceleration, the hang time, everything about it fits perfectly. And it's so obvious, right? Even in 2025 now, 5-inch rigs are still like the gold standard for FPV. Even though it's a nightmare. Be honest, it's a nightmare. You have to drive a half an hour to the spot. If anybody's around, if you're a responsible person, you're going to feel weird about killing them. They're probably going to get pissed off because they're noisy as hell. When you crash, you bend up propellers, you're constantly changing props, you're breaking arms, you're carrying a GoPro around, which is expensive. You know, if you're dragging a GoPro around, you've got like $800 up in the sky, $800 up in the sky. That sucks. You lose the whole thing. That's a lot of money, right? 5-inch rigs are a pain in the ass. Be honest. They're a pain in the ass. They're dangerous, right? Like, all these issues. These silly little things out in front of your house, in terms of flight characteristics and like the magic that is the properly sized rig in the properly sized space, that's what you get in front of your house, out behind your house, with these little 2S 75mm rigs. And that's why I've really just absolutely fallen for these. You know, when I started to do gig work, I fell in love with Cinewhoops and the way that they fly when flying when doing subject-driven flying, right? Musicians, actors, January 1st, a 16-story building demolition, right? And like before that, I fell in love with the way 5-inch rigs flew when I built my first one 5, 6, 7 years ago, however long ago it was. When 0702 motors came out and we started to get high KV versions of them, I fell in love with 65mm 1S rigs inside the house. There are drones that perfectly fit in scenarios or locations that we fly. And when that happens, that's the magic. And that's what has happened here with these. In fairness, a high KV 65mm 1S rig, it's really fun to fly outside the house. If you haven't done it, if you've only flown your 30,000 plus KV 65mm 1S rigs inside the house, take them outside. Take them outside on a day that's not very windy, because they just get the hell beaten out of them in the wind because they're so light. But they're really good outside. They will make outside of your house feel even bigger than these. The magic of these, though, is that when it's windy, which there's usually a few miles an hour of wind, which is a lot for a little 65mm rig. When it's windy, these things can handle it much better. And the extra power that these 75s have on 2S allows you to do all kinds of sketchy shit, like throw them up over trees and whatnot. So it gives you that 5-inch flight experience where, like, when you go full throttle, you're like, what? Like it's too much power, basically. Like, at full throttle, it's too much power. But if you just blip full throttle, it's controllable, right? In the same way that, like, with a 5-inch rig, you never really need to go full throttle and leave it there for, like, a full second, right? If you do that, you'll be literally in the clouds. These are like that. With a 1S, with just 1S rigs in general, there are a lot of situations where outside you have to go full throttle and leave it for like a full second. And that just kind of feels underpowered, right? That you don't get the same confidence with that as you do with a rig that has a little bit too much power, and it's a little bit like almost scary. These are not scary, but you know what I mean from 5-inch rigs, right? First time you flew a 5-inch rig and you want full throttle, you were like, oh, right? And then the second time you're like, oh, and then the 100th time you're like, ooh, this is fun, right? Same kind of thing. So yeah, 75mm 2S, absolute magic. Before we dive into 75mm, just to get it out of the way, if you're going to go down the 1S 65mm O4 Lite rabbit hole, the only AIO that I've seen that... hang on. Let me think about it. Well, let me put it this way. There are AIOs out there, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that there are some AIOs out there that have a 5-volt BEC built in that you could technically run the O4 Lite off of, but those AIOs are all going to be heavier than the one that Beta FPV is about to put out. And if you're going to do a 1S rig with O4 Lite, you are going to have to keep track of every fraction of a gram. The Walksnail 1S builds already suffer horribly from the extra weight of the HDO VTX. And the DJI O4 version is going to be about a gram heavier. And so you got to be real careful about weight. And so the weight of the AIO is going to be incredibly important. And this Beta FPV AIO that they're about to put out is almost certainly going to be the lightest weight one. You can just tell by the fact that the sides are all cut in. And so the Beta FPV AIO is going to be the one that you want. I saw a picture of it on Facebook. I will not be able to find it. I'm looking on their website, but it's... oh, there it is. Okay. I spoke too soon. So this is going to be the one. If you want to go O4 Lite 1S This is it. Almost guaranteed. You're not going to find an AIO that's lighter weight than this. It's also kind of amazing that this has this JST plug up here. And it looks like they've also put pads, which is awesome, because if you want to really slam the VTX down as low as possible on the AIO, which will make a difference, you can break this plug off and then just use these pads. Again, I really wish that BetaFPV had put this big, tall JST plug in the middle on the bottom here where we have some free space. To me, that's a total missed opportunity, but I don't know. Maybe they had to set it up this way because these, you know, the F4 processor and God only knows what this chip is. Maybe they needed to be down here. Maybe there's a reason for it. Oh, it also looks like this does not have a USB port on it, which is kind of nice. That saves a little bit more weight. So yeah, 1S O4 Lite. This is it. Almost guaranteed. This is the way that you want to go. This is out. Oh my God, okay. I didn't think this was out already. So I will be leaving this tab open because I need to buy one of these after the stream. I'm going to do an RC drift car chasing rig with the O4 Lite. And this is going to be the AIO that I use. So yeah, and a little bit of an apology to BetaFPV. When this first came out, I didn't understand it all the way. And I was like, what did they do? I was upset that they didn't make it 2S capable. I now understand. It does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity that they didn't make this 2S capable, but I bet you it would have been bigger and heavier if they'd made it able to withstand the 2S voltage. And so I kind of apologize for that. This is amazing, and this is going to be the only AIO, I'll bet you, for a 1S Lite build to keep the weight as low as possible and to get half decent flight time, flight performance, yada yada yada. I think I do have an affiliate link to BetaFPV, so if you guys get one of these, use my affiliate link, please, over on CiottiFPV.com. Okay, so the topic of the live stream is. I really want to get caught up on chat. Hold on. Let me at least get the... I saw a super chat come through. Mape, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, brother. He says, added you on Discord. Seems like you can use direct power. If you're talking about the O4 Lite, the low end of the voltage that it allows is 3.7 volts. So if you plug in a fresh battery... Yes, the O4 Lite will boot up and it'll run. You'll then take off, you'll start flying it. The first time that you go full throttle with these little 1S tiny whoops, the voltage sag is ridiculous. And I can almost guarantee you that it will sag down below 3.7 volts and that'll brown out the AIO. That is a problem that I have with the Walksnail setups. They are actually designed to take 1S voltage. The Walksnail Lite, it'll function all the way down to, I think it's 3.3 volts. I only get about 1 minute and 50 seconds of runtime from this, chasing the little RC drift cars, which if you haven't seen, you should check out. Go to my channel and then just click the edits playlist. There's like 5 or 6 edits of me chasing RC drift cars with these things. It's some of the coolest flying I've ever done. So much fun. I have to come in after 1 minute and 50 seconds. At that point, if I go full throttle, it'll brown out this VTX every single time. You can run you can run your 300 mAh batteries all the way down to like 3.2 volts per cell on an analog rig, not on these. And the O4 Lite is going to be way worse because again, this'll brown out down at 3.3 volts. That's going to brown out at 3.7 volts. So you're going to get probably like 40-50 seconds into flying, depending on how powerful of a motor you've got. And then when you go full throttle, it's going to brown that thing out. Brown out means it just shuts off, and now it's going to have to reconnect, and you're going to be without video for like 15-20 seconds, which you're going to do that twice, and then you're going to get fed up. So you got to run either an external step-up voltage regulator to give it a solid 5 volts, or the better bet is going to be to get that Beta FPV Matrix AIO because it's got that built in and it's plug and play. The ultimate build, which I will probably do because I'm going to try to make up for that extra weight, I'm going to break that JST off. I'm going to direct solder those plugs. Hopefully, there's a way to direct solder to the O4. Maybe I won't, though. I don't know. We'll figure it out. You guys will get to watch me do it. Once Georgia figures out that 1 inch of snow on the ground doesn't mean that every single thing needs to shut down. My O4 stuff is stuck in transit. Mape with a $2 super chat. He says, look at the video, bro. Let's see. What video? What video? I don't see it. We're added you on where on Discord? General nonsense, maybe? Let me take a look. There he is. There's Mape. So he has linked Jake FPV's video. All right, let's take a look at this down here. So flight controller, Happymodel Super X HD. Happymodel Super X HD. So the only way... All right, so let's take a look at the voltage. So we'll go into this battery a little bit, and we'll take a look at where his voltage... Okay, so see this? 3.6 volts. If the Super X AIO does not have a 5-volt BEC on board, he would no longer have video. Is it browning out right now? Is that why it's so dark? No. So at 3.6 volts here, it would already be browned out. So the only possibility here is that the Super X HD has a 5-volt BEC on board, which is giving a solid 5-volt power source. So let's take a look, and there it is. Built-in 5-volt, 1.5 amp max BEC. So yeah, this Super X will work as well, but it's not going to be as lightweight, I'll betcha, as that Beta FPV AIO. It's also not going to be plug and play. This you're going to have to direct solder. Some people that matters. For me, it doesn't. I actually have Timmons sent me one of these Super X AIOs, so I will probably do my initial O4 Lite build with exactly this. So that is great. That is fantastic. But yeah, the only AIOs, like I said earlier, that are going to work are ones that have a 5-volt BEC on board. You're not going to be able to power the O4 Lite direct voltage 1S. And most Tiny Whoop AIOs do not have 5-volt BECs on board. And, you know, the Walksnail Lite, fortunately, will work all the way down to 3.3 volts. So there we go. Thank you for the super chats, brother. Very, very cool of you. And thank you for linking that video. That is good stuff. All right, let me dive into the best AIO for O4 Lite 2S 75mm builds, because there's only really 3, I think, that we're going to be looking at, which is okay. 3 choices is... A lot of times with Tiny Whoops, we only have 1 choice. So it's kind of nice that we have 3 choices here. Shout out to Frank Nicholas, who did a Fiverr session with me last night. He is speccing out 2 builds, and he found... We knew about the Goku. I kind of knew about the newbie drone, but I wasn't necessarily thinking about it. And then the Beta FPV option is what I've actually got in this. So shout out to Frank. We did a little session last night, and it kind of made me realize that this was the perfect topic for a live stream here. So the 3 options are Flywoo Goku. The 3 options that I know of are a Flywoo Goku, a newbie drone, a Beta FPV. Here are the requirements. If you want to be insanely helpful in chat and you know of another option, tag me in the chat and let me know what it is. We want an AIO that is 1 to 2S or 1 to 3S, but I've never seen one. I've only ever seen AIOs that are 1 to 2S and then 2 to 4S. But it's got to be 2S capable, right? So AIO has to be able to work with 2S, and it has to have ELRS on board. Putting an external receiver and an external VTX into a tiny whoop, it's just stupid. It's obnoxious, all right? And so those are the requirements. As I say all of this, I'm realizing that we have 4 options. The Super X is the other option. So we've got 4 options. Sorry, guys. We've got 4 options. Happymodel Super X HD, and then we're going to look at the other ones. But those are the requirements. It's got to be 2S capable. It's got to have ELRS on board. Ready, go. I would love for it to not have an OSD chip on board. If you don't know, the OSD chip is only used with analog builds, and I'm going to show you why I would rather it not have an OSD chip. I just have to find a picture of one. Basically, it's huge. The OSD chip is gigantic, and so if you're making an AIO, let's look up the 2G4. What am I saying? I have a 2G4 sitting right here somewhere, and I can just point a camera at it. Oh, is this a 2G4? This is not a 2G4. This is an X12, but that's fine because it has an OSD chip on it. So this big, dumb... Come on, Logitech. Please. There you go. This giant rectangular chip is an OSD chip. The only thing that OSD chip does is specifically for analog builds, it gives you your OSD. And so for every single HD build, if you run an AIO that has this OSD chip on it, all this space is being wasted. You could do things like go from a 5 amp FET to a 12 amp FET with that extra space, right? Or you just have less things on the board to attract a solder blob and explode when you plug your next battery in. With these HD builds, we now have a bunch of AIOs that are available that are using that extra space from removing the OSD chip for other... Black box? Wouldn't it be nice to have black box on your tiny whoop? That's the kind of thing that they can put into the same space that OSD chip is taking up. And so that's what... Ideally, it's not... Here's the flip side of it. If you buy that AIO and then down the road you decide you want to do an analog build with it, if there's no OSD chip, you don't do an analog chip. You don't do an analog build with it, rather, because flying analog with no OSD sucks. But yeah, those are kind of the requirements. And so let's dive into... I know that there's a Neutron RC AIO as well. I had horrible luck with 2 of those in a row. And I bought them from Newbie Drone. They were one of the only places that were selling them. They have stopped selling them, I'm assuming because a lot of them had bad QC. So I don't consider the Neutron AIO to be a real option because, yeah, there was just... I'll put it this way. Newbie Drone ended up refunding me for it, rather than repairing it, rather than replacing it on the second one. That's how bad the relationship got between them and Neutron. So, yeah, the Neutron RC AIO is not a real thing as far as I'm concerned. Hold on. I'm getting the link to the... to the 2... other AIOs up. Here we go. So, all right, we're going to go on a little bit of a tear here. We're going to actually take a look at a couple of bind and flies that are being made as well. There's the Goku, and then there's the Newbie. Oh, Come on, Canon! Fix your software, bros! Hang on, friends. Canon's new EOS webcam utility software is horrible. And it does this once per live stream for everyone that's using Canon cameras right now. It is a complete joke. For one of the biggest camera companies on earth, boy oh boy, they need to fix this. Come on! Usually it comes back to life quicker than this. Oh, dude, really? Hold on, let me turn the camera off and on again. Did you try turning it off and on again? Sure did. Okay, it should come back to life this time. Oh, or not. Hold on. Close. Oh, the application is hung up. That's what's going on. Okay. Let's try this again. Oh, man. Denzel the Terrible says it's the 69-minute curse. Does it always happen at 69 minutes? You guys would know better than me. All right, let's try this again. Hey, here it comes. And what? It always comes. That's the timing. It always comes back to life when it clicks. There it comes. Yeah, there it is. Thanks a lot, Canon. Dicks. Okay, so here we go. Super X, Happymodel Super X HD AIO, 12 amp FETs, 1 to 2S, BLES ELRS on board. Awesome. I have not run the HD version of this before. I have had questionable reliability with Happymodel Super X, the non-HD AIO in the past, so I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with any of these options, but I don't know. I've had great experience with the Happymodel 2G4 AIO. That is, in my experience, the absolute most durable tiny whoop AIO of all time. And so I'm sure that some of that must have rubbed off on this. But see, like, the problem here is that Happymodel also makes the Diamond AIO, which is hands down the worst AIO, tiny whoop AIO ever made. And so when you've got the best and the worst, like, I end up in the middle somewhere. So yeah, if you've had a good experience with, if you've had any experience with the Happymodel Super X HD AIO, leave it in the chat for everybody. It's not a webcam, Kevin Smith. It's a digital SLR. So there's no throwing it in the trash. And I can't really afford to buy fancy camera gear. So I whatever extra money I have goes towards buying stuff to actually test that are FPV related. So yeah. I'm not going to say that it's super durable. I'm also not going to say that it's junk. I have one here. I will be using it, and you guys will get to see live if it's okay. We've also got the Flywoo Goku F405 HD version 2, 1 to 2S. Again, 12 amp FETs, BLES, ELRS on board. I don't know anything about this Flywoo AIO other than they're using it in their Vision 40, their new O4 Lite Vision 40. Tyler, Gruss FPV, over at Rotor Riot, is who I'm 99% sure he handles all of their micro boards. Their micro builds. Tyler is a great guy. I get to spend a little bit of time with him every year at Rampage, and I absolutely love the little bit of time that we get to hang out together. He's a busy guy. He knows his stuff. He's been doing, me and him have bounced ideas back and forth about the Walksnail 2S builds in general. He's a great guy. This build is dialed, right? Looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? Mobula 7 V3 frame, RC and Power 1002s. It's got that Flywoo Goku board on it. I talked to Tyler last night about this, and I basically said, hey, did you choose the Goku board because you found it to be more durable than the Beta FPV 12 amp, which I know that he knows about that. We're going to talk about that board in a second. Or is it other reasons? And I don't want to necessarily like throw him under the bus or anything, but like it didn't have to do with durability. It had nothing to do with durability. So he did not say that like, yes, this Goku board is way more durable. He didn't say anything about durability. You guys may or may not have heard that sometimes Beta FPV is kind of a pain to work with. I'm not going to say anything after that. So the Vision 40 is using the Goku board, which is a massive thumbs up. That tells me that it's probably pretty damn durable, because I know that Tyler tests stuff. And I know that he's been flying these 75mm 2S boards for a long time. And so I'm pretty confident that the Goku board is a really good option. This is the problem with it, though. It is an expensive AIO. You know, you're putting $100 and something into the O4 Lite. You're putting another $80 into the AIO. You're putting another 40 something into the motors, right? Like, you're going to have a damn near $300 tiny whoop flying around. You know, to buy the bind and fly, it's $325. That's an awful lot of money. But I mean, what are you gonna say? Like the Happymodel AIO is probably the cheapest option that there is, and it's only 47 versus, well, okay, it's almost half as much, but still, right? It's only a $30 difference. So like, yeah, right? See what I'm getting at? But this is a good option, and in theory, when you look at the price, this is the best option. This is potentially the highest quality option. I don't actually know that. I haven't personally run it, but if you go by pricing, this should be the highest quality option. You're putting a $300 tiny whoop up into the air to spend an extra 35 or whatever it is dollars for an AIO that's possibly a little bit better quality. That's maybe worth it. That's up to you to decide. I don't know if I'm going to buy one of these because I have the Super X. It makes sense to use that first. If the Super X blows up, I will probably snag one of these Gokus to give it a shot. All right. So those are our first two options. The next option is the new, which is already sold out. I don't think this was sold out last night. The Newbie Drone B-Brain HD G4 flight controller with Express LRS built in. Even more expensive. All right. So the price point has gotten even higher here. My main issue with this AIO are these motor plugs. Newbie Drone uses a smaller motor plug. I believe they're using a JST 1.0. The industry standard for tiny whoop motors is JST 1.25. There's a chance I have that backwards, but it doesn't matter. What you need to know is that Newbie Drone uses a different plug. And so any motor that you buy other than a Newbie Drone motor, you're going to have to desolder the leads and solder on a specific set of battery leads that you're going to get from Newbie Drone with those specific plugs. Not the end of the world, but annoying as hell. Every single other rig you have, unless you're all in on Newbie Drone, is going to have it's annoying. It's super annoying. I understand that Newbie Drone did it to save space on the board so that they could put more components on the board, and I love that. But for me, as somebody that does a lot of these builds and tests a lot of stuff, it is maddening to have all of these Newbie Drone boards have a specific plug on them. For you guys, it's probably not as big of a deal because you're not going to test 8 sets of motors on every single one of your builds to create live stream content. But still, there's going to be a situation where you're like, I just got this new set of motors. Let me plug it into my newbie. And you're going to have to sit there with a soldering iron for an hour, and you're soldering very small, and there's a chance that you can bridge the pads or put too much flux on that gets into the, like, so yeah, this is an option. It's sold out anyway, so let's move on. In fairness, Newbie Drone has been very kind with sending me stuff over the years. They've been super interested in my feedback, and so they're stateside. Few of the people that I've interfaced with over there have been amazing, and so I love Newbie Drone as a company. This is $100. I love that there's all these pads on it. Boy, is that nice. I assume that there's a 5-volt back on it. Oh my God, there's a 10-volt back on it. Look at you, Newbie Drone. That's pretty cool. So it has both a 5 and a 10-volt back on it. So for example, right, they put these smaller motor plugs on it, and now they've got room to put a 5 and a 10-volt back on there. So yeah, I'm not going this route. I'm not going to spend $100 on a Tiny Whoop AIO. But if you have a reason for a 10-volt back, or it looks like they've got, this looks a lot like a little Bluetooth antenna. So this might have Speedy Bee built in, which is pretty slick. There are some things that are nice about this AIO. This might be the perfect AIO for you. It's not the perfect AIO for me, so I'm going to move on. But this is an option. Cool. The last option is the Beta FPV 12 amp F4. Unfortunately, so that's the AIO that I've been running on my Walksnail 2S builds, and it has been very durable. The version 3, 2024 version, it looks like has been discontinued, which kind of sucks because that's the one that I've been running. But there is this version 2.2, yeah, version 2.2 from 2022. Where does it say? There it is. Flight Controller 2022. Which the difference is this 2022 version 2.2, has an OSD chip on it. What's nice about that is that if you ever decide to do an analog build with this AIO, you're good to go. But if you're going to use this for an HD build, all of the space taken up by this OSD chip is wasted space. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter. It has everything else that it needs on it. Here and I forgot to talk about this. I'm sorry. With these 2S builds, we don't need a 5-volt back. I don't think this has a 5-volt back on it. I could just look. No, I have the version 3. It doesn't matter. With 2S, you're not going to get so much voltage sag that the O4 Lite shuts down. And so with 2S, we can send the O4 Lite full battery voltage, which I actually prefer. I try not to connect backs together. If every electronic component that takes raw voltage is going to have a BEC to take that raw voltage and smooth it out to a solid 5 volts or 3.3 volts or 10 volts. And so the O4 Lite has its own BEC internal. And what I don't like to do, you can totally do this, but from what I've been told, it's you want to try to avoid this, is you don't want to have like a 5-volt back feeding into another 5-volt back. It's better to just send the raw voltage to the one single 5-volt BEC and let that do its thing. I'm not an electrical mastermind. I have no electronics background other than FPV, and a father that was an electrical technician for most of his career, who worked on the tokamak plasma fusion reactor in Princeton, New Jersey for many years. And and has been to NASA soldering school. So, you know, for you new folks, he knows his stuff. I didn't learn a ton from him, but I picked up a couple things here and there. But just keep in mind, I do not have an electrical background. But I've heard from people that seem to know what they're saying, that if possible, feed raw battery voltage into one single BEC and then let that chill it out. And that's what we're doing with these 2S builds. It also means that we have more options for the flight controller, for the AIO, right? We don't have to rely on an AIO that has a 5-volt BEC on it. Here's the other thing. BECs fail. And so if you're relying on a 5-volt BEC on your flight controller to then feed a 5-volt BEC on your VTX, if the 5-volt BEC dies on the flight controller, now you got to rewire. It's just a pain in the ass. Send the VTX full battery voltage, and you've taken one part of the chain out that can fail. That is something that in the last 8+ years I've had happen. I have had 5-volt BECs die and kill flight controllers more often than any other failure in the last 8+ years of flying FPV. And so that's a real thing. If I can take a 5-volt BEC out of the chain of electricity that's going through a build, I will every single time. And it almost always improves the durability of that rig, right? Because if you're feeding your VTX from the flight controller's 5-volt BEC and that dies, you lose video. And if you're far away, you lose that whole build, right? So the ability on 2S to feed the O3 Lite full battery voltage is awesome. And that was one of the other things that on the previous live stream where I was like, yeah, 1S is not really viable for the O4 Lite. That was one of the things in my head was like, yeah, we having too many BECs in the game is just super annoying. Let me scroll up in chat a little bit to see if anybody else has. So those are the 4 AIO options off the top of my head. Let me see if you guys have any other have found any other ones in the chat here. I'm so sorry that you know what? I'm pretty sure those are the main ones. I'm tempted to get caught up on chat. No, let me take a quick look. I will get caught up on chat at the end. Bagzilla says HGLRC SPECTER 15 amp ELRS AIO 2 to 4S 4-in-1. I've had a really rough time with HGLRC over the last 8 years in terms of quality control or lack thereof. Recently, I got the HGLRC SPECTER. It's actually running in one of these analog builds. The HGLRC SPECTER is, they say that it's a 1 to 2S AIO. It doesn't work on 1S. It just doesn't. I got 2 of them in a row from Get FPV, and it just would not work on 1S. What's unbelievable is I hooked 2S up to it, and it's actually been running okay. It has a built-in VTX though. If you're gonna run an external HD VTX, having an internal analog VTX doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Some AIOs will have a method of, usually they'll put 2 pads next to each other and there'll be a solder bridge between them, and you can break that solder bridge and that will turn off the VTX. Some AIOs don't. Some AIOs, you can't turn off that internal analog VTX. And that is a big problem because you're not going to hook an antenna up to it, and then that VTX is going to roast, and it's going to either kill the board or kill itself. In the process, it's going to be sending out a bunch of garbage 5.8 that's going to interfere with the other VTX that you're putting on it. It's a no-go, right? So an AIO, it's also wasted space, right? It's a bunch of wasted chips and space on the board for that analog VTX. I don't think my SPECTER is 15 amp, is it? Are there 2 versions of the SPECTER? I'm looking it up real quick here. This looks a lot like mine. It's got this UFL dead center, which mine does. Oh, no. Okay. This looks like it's just... So it doesn't come with a 5.8 gig antenna. So, okay, I guess there is a second version of the HGLRC SPECTER. It's got black box. That's kind of nice. Yeah, okay. So they make a version of it that does not have a VTX built in, which is pretty cool. Very expensive, $78. There's no way I'm paying... Here's what I'm going to say. Spend $80 on this Flywoo Goku. Don't spend $78 on this HGLRC SPECTER. If you're desperate to do one of these builds and this is the only one left, maybe you'll be okay. But there is no chance of me spending any money on HGLRC is absolute bottom of the barrel for me. If I absolutely have to, I guess I'll do it. But I will begrudgingly... it will be... yeah. I will be grudged in doing so. OMFPV says TBS Lucid AIO 1 to 2 OS if you still fly Crossfire. Crossfire, in my opinion, and most's opinion, is kind of dead. ELRS 2.4 performs better in most scenarios. Gemini Nomad absolutely demolishes Crossfire. So yeah, come on board to ELRS. It's better in almost every way. Willie FPV says Happymodel CrazyF405HD. Let's take a quick look at that. Is that that's different than the Super X, right? The crazy ones are usually slightly different. Let's take a look at it over on Pyrodrone. Okay, pretty similar. Oh my god, these pads are so small. Pretty similar to the Super X, but a little bit bigger. See how this is a straight line here? So this is going to be a little bit heavier. Big old JST port up here on the side, which is just going to be kind of annoying because it's going to make you space the boards a little bit farther apart, which really does matter. But an option, $55, good price. I would definitely go with the Super X HD before the Crazy F405. But you might have a hard time finding this Super X. I don't know anything about the durability, but it's nice that we have another option. What's the bottom of the board look like? You're going to have to be careful with this plug location. This is a non-standard motor plug location. It might hit on the frame. I'm taking a look at the Mobula 7 V3 frame. So that's going to be one of the other things about these different AIOs that I can't... I mean, so the Goku AIO, it's got the motor pads pushed all the way out here. See how far out the... I'm sorry, not the... Yeah, the motor pads and the motor plug headers. See how they're pushed nice and far out into the corners? That means that they're not going to conflict with the frame, the bottom of the frame, which is kind of important. We know that because Rotor Riot sells a bind and fly that Tyler made for them here with that AIO in the Mobula 7 V3 frame, which is the frame that you want to run, in my opinion. And so we know that the Goku is safe. I haven't really thought about that with some of these others. Okay, Newbie Drone looks like they've done a good job pushing these out close to the mounting points, so the Newbie Drone is probably okay. Super X, do we have a picture of the bottom of you? Ooh, see, this is not... See how these are not pushed out nearly as far? I know this quality is going to suck, but just see how these are kind of inboard? This might have a... These plug headers might hit on the Mobula 7 V3 frame. I'll let you know, because I have one of these that I'm going to use. Wait a second. I'll let you know right now, because... Oh, shit, no, I don't have an extra one of these frames, do I? The frames are all built up. I can probably eyeball it. Let me see here. So, Super X. Oh, no, I don't even have to eyeball it. I can just hold it down like this. Yeah, they hit the frame. So, you're going to have to clearance the Mobula 7 V3 frame. Not the end of the world, but admittedly annoying as hell to have to do stuff like that. There's even a chance that... Nah, it looks like it'll be fine. But yeah, you're going to have to grind away material at the bottom, the battery bay of this frame if you decide to go with the Super X HD because of where they've put these motor plugs. That's frustrating. But the Super X is 1S, and I'm going to use it on the little 1S build. And the 1S builds, I use the Cockroach 65 V3 frame, and that's got this battery bay that's like really far down, and I won't have a problem with it. So yeah, the Super X would probably be the Super X or the new Beta FPV Matrix that we were looking at earlier. They're going to be the AIOs that you want to run for 1S. If you want to run this Super X HD AIO on 2S, you're going to have a little bit of an annoyance in clearancing the frame, but probably not the end of the world. 15 minutes of your life. You're going to clearance the battery bay, which is not really going to affect durability. The frames never break in the battery bay, so it'll be all right. But that's going to be the most customization that you kind of have to do. CrazyF405, look where they've put the motor plugs. See how they're not far out here? This might have the same problem. They've squared the plugs up, which actually helps things. Yeah, you might be able to get away without grinding away at the battery bay with this. Super X HD is 2S, got that. How you on a CrazyF405? Mr. Huggy calling out the Neutron RC. Yeah, don't do the Neutron. Limits 20 says, then we got that. Darwin FPV I don't think it has ELRS built in, but let's take a quick look. Darwin FPV 1, 2, 3S. I didn't think that Darwin had a 1 to 3S with ELRS built in, but I could totally be wrong. So this is also a big AIO. Okay, yeah, no ELRS built in. So there's no UFL and there's no antenna hanging off. So yeah, this is not... It's just silly to mount an external VTX and an external ELRS receiver. Can you do it? Absolutely, but you shouldn't. So yeah, this is not in my list because it doesn't have ELRS built in. I think that's it, man. There's a ton of people in chat, and I'm not seeing anybody else that's tagged me with another option. I mean, to be honest, we've got, what, 4 or 5 options here? That's pretty damn good. A lot of times with Tiny Whoops, we've got, like I said earlier, like 1, maybe 2 options. So this is kind of cool. We've got Happymodel Super X HD, the Newbie Drone Acro B 75 HD, the Goku, the Beta FPV 12 amp version 2.2. If you can find it, the version 3. If you can find the version 3, do me a favor and send me a link, because I think I blew this one up the other day, and I don't have an extra. I was hoping we'd have enough time on the stream for me to... we might. Got another 20-ish minutes. I'm going to start tearing this down to see if I can see what went up in smoke when I plugged the battery in on this. So, yeah. All right. And then the Happymodel CrazyF405, the Goku, this. Okay, so there's your options. Which one is best? The Beta FPV version 3 that you can't, that it appears is either been discontinued or it's just out of stock everywhere. My main reason for that is that the Beta FPV 12 amp 1 to 2S version 3 does not use a USB port on the bottom. And so where the battery goes, there's tons of clearance here. They use a little JST, where is it? They use a little JST plug right in there, and then a little dongle to plug into USB-C. This admittedly is annoying. You can buy replacements, but to me, it's worth the annoyance because not having that USB port on the bottom makes it lighter weight, but it also gives you more space for the battery bay. So you can slam this AIO down super low and you never have to worry about the USB port coming in contact with the battery. Now that we've gone 2S, our batteries have become a lot bigger. And luckily, the Mobula 7 V3 frame pushes the battery down just far enough where with most AIOs, you can find a set of grommets that will set the AIO in a place where the USB port does not hit the battery. That's just this one frame though. There's a cool little thing you can do with these 2S builds with the Beta FPV board that doesn't have the USB on the bottom, where you actually run the lighter weight Mobula 7 V4 frame. This frame here, this frame here, which and what you do is you cut the top. I have one of these that I've modded, but it's in the box. It's not worth digging it out. What you do is you cut the top battery bay supports out. If you have some of these Mobula 7 V4 frames and you've flown them a lot, you've probably broken these. This is what breaks on this frame, and it's what you need to remove to put a 2S battery in here. And so if you want the ultimate in performance, the Mobula 7 V4 frame with these top battery mount pieces of plastic removed is the maximum performance. It's the lightest weight frame, it's durable, and you also don't have to use motor spacers if you run 1002 motors on it. From a performance standpoint, this frame is as good as it gets. It's the lightest weight option. The battery is going to be tucked up a lot, so it's pulling the battery up towards the center of gravity, towards the prop line. So for ultimate in performance, unquestionably, the V4 frame is the way to go. It's kind of a pain in the ass, and the only AIO that's going to work with it is going to be the Beta FPV 12 amp version 3. Hold on, maybe the version 2.2? I probably have to buy one of these version 2.2s. I'm pretty sure I'm going to. Does this also not have the... Okay, so the version 2.2 also does not have the USB port. This is the bottom of the board. So, yeah, what I'll say is the Beta FPV 12 amp, either F4 12 amp, either one of them, is going to be your path to maximum enlightenment. No, to maximum flight performance. Because no USB, slam the AIO down as low as possible. That'll let you pull the battery up as high as possible if you want to go all out. Personally, I love this Mobula 7 V3 frame. I'm going to stick with this. It's super durable. It just works. Maybe it's if I do, I don't know. This frame is great. I'm in love with this frame. Also, slamming the AIO down as low as possible allows you to pull the VTX down as low as possible. It allows you to run the shortest possible canopy stack screws, which really does matter. The Vision 40 here is using M1.2 by 14 millimeter screws. On all of my builds here, I use M1.2 by 12 screws. The main reason, I believe, is this canopy. The thickness right here of this part of the canopy is probably why they're having to use M1.2 by 14. Why that's important is that all of the force that you put on this canopy in crashes, so every single time you crash inverted, all of that energy goes into those tiny little plastic posts on the frame that are sticking up. This is not the same frame, but you can see these little plastic posts, right? All of that energy gets put into these weak-ass little plastic posts. and they absolutely will break eventually. And so the lower you can slam your AIO, the lower you can slam your VTX, the shorter screws that you can run will significantly improve the durability of your double stack tiny whoop build. I break those little posts off of single stack builds in really hard crashes at jungle gyms. Yeah, I mean, I'm usually full throttle going into metal, so it's pretty vicious, but you then put another VTX up on top and then big long screws, you feel me? Right? It does make a difference. So absolute max performance and the best AIO option for an O4 Lite 2S 75mm tiny whoop, I'm pretty sure, is going to be the Beta FPV version 3. Hopefully it comes back in stock. I'm almost certainly going to snag one of these version 2.2s. Hopefully it's as durable. Like I said, I've had really good luck with the version 3 from a durability standpoint. I've put a whole bunch of batteries through this Walksnail 2S rig that I'm taking apart right now. The constant failure and the reason why I haven't had more batteries on this rig is the Walksnail Lite VTXs over and over and over again letting go. It's got nothing to do with the AIO, right? I'm feeding those Walksnail VTXs battery voltage. And so the AIO has nothing to do with it. I've crashed this thing hard. I'm probably 100 plus batteries into this AIO with hard 2S crashes into the concrete, into the street, in front of the house, into the roof, and it's held up totally fine. Beta FPV gets a much worse rap for durability and quality control than they deserve. And the reason is they sell more stuff than anybody else. And when you sell more stuff, you get more angry people, right? Like, it's just the way that it is. If you buy something and it blows up, you get pissed off and you go on the internet and you tell everyone about it. If you buy something and it works, you enjoy it. And you typically don't go on the internet and talk shit about it. So Beta FPV has always, and probably will always, sell a higher number of their components, and so they will always have more people that complain. So as a consumer, it seems like Beta FPV has lower quality control. But as soon as you talk to anybody that works at any of these resellers, they get to see the actual ratio of stuff that's coming back in. And what I've heard from these people is that the quality control of Beta FPV is no worse than anybody else. Unfortunately, those retailers' ability to work with Beta FPV as a manufacturer, it's apparently a little bit annoying, which is why some companies choose not to work with them. But their quality control is not worse. They just sell more stuff. Make sense? Now I'm going to get caught up on the entire live stream chat. Or not, because it looks like YouTube has deleted all the chat messages before 3:45 p.m. That's new to me. Sorry, anybody that tagged me before 3:45 p.m., blame YouTube. Veritas says, hey, bud, will you be going with the new DJI O4 Lite version for 1S and 2S? Yep. I should have ordered 2 of them, but I only ordered 1. It is on the way. At some point, our USPS will start working again. We got 1 inch of snow and all of Georgia lost their mind, and so nothing has happened since Thursday. Dave Gunna says, do not know the runtime of the O4, but it's around 2 minutes. You will not be happy, and DJI will not be an option. Not true. I get it'll give. So the amp draw of O4 Lite is 1.2. The amp draw of Walksnail is 1.1. So no real difference. Yes, there's an extra gram that I'm going to be carrying around and that extra 0.1 of an amp. So my guess is going to be that I will lose 10 seconds of runtime, which is totally acceptable for the fact that it's a DJI product. So I won't have an entire bag of them that have shit the bed. and also 4K flight footage. Yeah, up to 120 frames a second, 1080. So yeah, no, I will love it more than likely. We'll see, but yeah, I've already seen a bunch of folks that have done builds with the O4 Lite, and it's phenomenal. So I'm pretty sure that I'll dig it. Willie FPV, you guys will get to see whether or not I do. Willie FPV says, what about Happymodel CrazyF405? We talked about that. Denzel says, hello. B-Mud Skipper says, I actually built a long-range 4S lithium-ion quad. Then I made a naked O3 75 Pro on 2S, and I have probably more stress-free flying just flying around the trees and structure in the yard. Yeah, I cannot scream it loud enough from the rooftops. 2S 75mm rigs out in front and behind your house is absolute magic. You gotta get the motor and prop combo right, as with any rig. But yeah, a 1002 or an 1102, minimum 14 or 15,000 kV. What I really like is 18, 19, 20,000 kV with a little bit of a motor limit in the PIDs tab of Betaflight. Motor limit it down to like 80%. It is unbelievable. Gemfan 1610 biblades are like the gold standard. It's absolute magic. Analog, HD, doesn't matter. You got tons of power, great runtime. My favorite battery is sold out at the moment. It's the Tiny Whoop 300 mAh 2S BT 3.0. The BT 3.0 battery lead is awesome. Little bit of a trick. You can, with the Mobula 7 V3 frame, you can run your battery lead super short, and then you put the BT 3.0 lead down through the back of the frame like this. It's so good. It keeps the batteries from ejecting from the battery bay. Super lightweight because your battery leads are nice and short. The battery leads are big, thick gauges of wire, so they really do, it does make a difference when you can run them super short. This little combination that I've done a ton of live streams over the last 6 months, it's just magic. It's absolute magic. It's the most fun I've had in FPV in a while. Do it, my friends. Running Water says, and like a lot of people in our chat here have followed suit and done these builds, and one by one I get the direct messages. Holy shit, dude, you were so right. This is unbelievable. This is all I want to fly. You know, you can fly from your living room. Come on, you can rip from your living room out in the front of your house, running up and down the street, chasing cars up and down the street, flying up over your roof, inspecting your gutters. It's super good. Running Water says FPV is goofy. Had a flight controller that had an ESC problem for months. Put it in the bin. Today decided to do a mock build with it. It works fine now. Yeah. Many times over the last 8+ years, I've had electronics in FPV that just stop working for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I put them down. I walk away from them for 24 hours, a week, a month, whatever. Hook them back up, and they're just completely fine. No rhyme or reason. I assume it's because we demand our stuff be inexpensive, mainly because we smash them into brick walls and metal poles and shit, right? And when, in order to make electronics cheaply, quality control kind of goes out the window. I've always assumed that that's why, because electronics shouldn't work like that, right? They should either work or not work. And when they stop working, they should stop working forever. But yeah, no, that's a super funny thing about FPV, for sure. B-Mud Skipper says, I really like staying inside on my couch in pajamas and fly in the yard. Me too. I land at the front door and swap batteries. Yep. I'm a little bit less lazy than B-Mud Skipper. I'll stand inside the front door, but I ain't going outside, man. Screw that. Crom says, the Goku 1-2S has a 9-volt 2-amp BEC. Does it really? I'll be testing it this week till the beta FPV one comes in. That's pretty cool. Not necessary, but it's nice that it has it. All you really need is a 5-volt BEC that's up to 1.5 amps, which shouldn't, most of them should be. But that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that the Goku had a 9-volt BEC. On 2S, I'm not going to use the internal BEC. I'm going to run direct battery voltage because what we talked about before. You do you, my friends. Denzel the Terrible says, what about 2S? What about 2S AIO for O4 Lite? I don't think 1S will be enough, so we talked about that. That was at 401. Mape, thank you again for the 2 super chats. Zip says, is there a good way of adding LEDs to a tiny whoop? Loads of ways. Would like to chase friends outside and need more visibility. Your one-stop shop for all your LED needs with tiny whoops is tinywhoop.com. Jesse has so many amazing LED options for tiny whoops. Here comes the link in chat. There are so many things that you can do for LEDs with tiny whoops. It is absolutely ridiculous. They're all over the place. Like I said, Jesse has a bunch of different options here. I'm not seeing Cob LEDs though. Like the ultra LED option is oh well, yeah, these are Cob LEDs, but I'll be damned. Well, here's the slickest option, and my favorite LED tiny whoop LED option is, and it's brand new. Where is it? It's a BT 2.0 180 degree battery lead PCB. I've been putting them on all my tiny whoops lately because it doesn't weigh anything. Typically when you add LEDs, they weigh something, and they're also like they're gonna take up space, and you got to glue them down, and it's like it's just a little bit annoying. Where the hell? Oh, I can let me just go to everything because it's a new item, and it'll be on like the first or second page. Of course, like here it is. LED PCB pigtail kit by Black Horse. I'm putting the link in the chat. This is my favorite way of putting an LED on a tiny whoop. It weighs literally nothing. It's oh, the fucking camera died again. Come on, Canon. Yeah, it doesn't weigh anything, and it serves as a 180 degree BT 2.0 lead. I think this is actually lighter weight than the 180 degree leads that you can buy from Beta FPV. Let me get this camera back up real quick. And yeah, it's got bright little LEDs on it. I'm going to show you in 1 second. I have it on a bunch of my builds here. Where's one that has it? Here's one. And so let's go to the overhead cam. This should be a charged battery. So yeah, it functions as wire in and then 180 degree to your BT 2.0 lead, but then it's also got 2 nice little LEDs on it. I know that doesn't look very bright, but it is. They're relatively bright LEDs, and they're facing backwards. So if you guys are racing, you're going to be staring right at somebody else's set of battery LEDs. And with racing, weight matters. So yeah, that's the super ultra easy button. There's lots of other crazier options for you, but these are great. And it's 2 per, and there's all different colors: red, orange, yellow, green, ice blue, pink, red and blue. One LED. There's 2 LEDs on there. One's red, one's blue in this case, or white. And so you know, you and all your friends can be a different color, and away you go. So that's the ultra easy, no additional wires. Oh wow. Again? Yo, Canon. Figure this shit out, man. Come on. Wow. Brutal. Alright. We'll just keep going in chat here. There you go, Zip. Great question, brother. Denzel the Terrible says, that is the title of the stream. He'll tell us soon. AZ Lone Wolf 81 says, is Happymodel CrazyF405 good for 2S? I assume so. Somebody posted it as an option, so I assume that it's good for 2S. Let me double check, though. There we go. Where is it at? CrazyF405. It's got 12 amp FETs, so it should be good for 2S, but let's just confirm. Yep, 1 to 2S. Good to go. Bad says the Super X HD is 2X. That's the one over here that we talked about. The only pain in the ass is probably going to be having to clearance the bottom of the battery bay. Not the end of the world, but not plug and play either. Willie FPV says, got that. CrazyF405. FPV, got that one. Flying Kebab says, Fly Wugoku F4. Talked about that one. Mr. Huggy calling out the Neutron RC. I don't recommend it. Bagzilla calling out the HGLRC SPECTER. We talked about that one. HGLRC is absolute last resort for me. Denzel the Terrible says 69-minute curse. Limits 20 says, I have a set of Happymodel 1002 20,000 kV motors. Would that be good for a 2S O4 build with power limit on the motors? Absolutely. You're going to motor limit those down to like 70% to get started. And then if that's not enough power, 75. I don't think, once you hit 80%, I don't think you'll need more power than that. But start at 70. 20,000 kV on 2S is a lot. Brad Bonin says Darwin FPV 1 to 3S. That's the one that we looked at. It does not have ELRS built in. Willie FPV says, so what's the best AIO for HD 1 to 2S? That's what we've been talking about. Thrash FPV says, why might I get flashes on my camera feed randomly 2 or so times in 5 seconds? That depends. Are we talking analog? Are we talking Walksnail, HDZero, DJI? Siskel FPV says, I've got one in my 2S builds. You saw it Crassle Crash, Super X. It's still kicking. Also have a CrazyF405 that's been solid too. Awesome. Thank you for that, Siskel. So there's a couple of thumbs up for the Super X here. And he said he also has one of these CrazyF405s, which is good. Happymodel gets a worse rap than they deserve. Happymodel is another company that sells a lot of stuff. And so when you sell a lot of stuff, inevitably there's going to be more people screaming about the quality. The Happymodel 2G4 1S AIO is as close to indestructible as I've ever seen in all of FPV. The only FPV component, I crash a lot. I'm hard on gear. The only other FPV component that I have seen that can touch the durability and reliability that I've seen from the 2G4 are Acon AIOs in the 5-inch world. 30 by 30 Acon 35 amp AIOs. Can't kill them. 2G4, same thing. Can't kill them. Happymodel has the ability to produce electronics that are hilariously durable. Maybe the CrazyF405 is just as durable. Maybe the Super X HD AIO is just as durable. I have not blasted them into concrete 7,000 times in a row to be able to tell you that. But yeah, and I try not to just like, oh, this is the best. Like you know, the 2G4, I've come close to saying that that's the best because I've had such a long, you know, experience with it. But yeah, there you go. Bird Person says, C post in Discord. Lazy Lone Wolf says, what are your thoughts on the Happymodel CrazyF405? So we've talked about that. So I'm looking for Bird Person in Discord. He's linking to the Super X, which we've been talking about. He says, I have the Super X, and it fits 2S. He's running double. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. So the other way that you can do 2S is you build a little double BT 2.0 connector, and you just take 2 of your 1S 300 mAh batteries and smack them next to each other, and you plug each one in individually. What's cool about this is you use the same batteries on your 1S rigs as you do on your 2S rigs. The pain in the ass of this, the pain in the ass is that it's hard to mount. Certain frames, like you can just stuff them in there, and like they'll fit, but they're, right? So you got to figure out a way to mount them so that they don't fall out. So that's the pain in the ass of doing it this way. The actual negative, you can figure that out though, a little piece of foam, whatever, right? The actual negative of doing this is that it's heavier. The Tiny Whoop BT 3.0 300 mAh 2S battery is it 3 grams lighter? I want to say it's 3 grams lighter. I'll tell you right now. 300 mAh 2S tiny whoop battery, 15 grams, double 300, 16.8 grams. So 1.8 gram difference, which is significant. Also, though, there's going to be more battery wire. So 1.6 gram difference is going to turn pretty quickly into a 2 gram difference. You're also going to have 2 BT 2.0 leads versus 1 BT 3.0 lead. So realistically, it's a 2 gram difference, doubling up on 1S batteries versus the Tiny Whoop 300 BT 3.0. You know, with these 2S builds, you're going to have plenty of power, but like, you know, that's 2 extra grams that you're carrying around all the time. So the runtime is going to be a little bit less. The flight performance is going to be a little bit worse. If you're desperate to do one of these builds right now, you can't get these batteries. So you have to do it with the double. And maybe you'll fall in love with that double setup. That's the way that I have the tiny lifters. And it was really cool being able to just run my regular old batteries on the tiny lifters. You can potentially run into issues with if you put one battery on there that's old and tired and one battery on there that's fresh. The old and tired battery is going to really voltage sag like crazy. And so there are reasons that it is not as good of a setup to do this. The opposite, on the other side of the fence is you don't have to buy any new batteries. That's pretty cool. It's easy to make the little plug. You can buy them from Beta FPV, but it's just 2 BT 2.0s, and you take a lead and you go in between them, and then you run the other leads to the flight controller. Dead simple to do. Here, this is what it looks like. In order to look up how to do it, you just have to look up the item. So, Beta FPV double BT 2.0. I guess we'll find it on Google. Let's see. Yep, there it is. So this is all it is. Unbelievably simple. You're going to hook the positive into the negative, and then you've got your ground coming out here, and then your voltage coming out here, right? Ultra, ultra, ultra simple. A little bit heavier. You could do double tiny whoop LED bing bongs. That'd be kind of cool. They might hit each other though. Nah, you could do it. They wouldn't hit each other. That'd be slick. Have 4 little LEDs on the back. You know, 2 of these little things. Put 1 on each. You would just run like this guy out here to the other one, and you would just stack them right next to each other. That'd be kind of cool. Mario Bean says, I have that same build, but with Walksnail. It's my favorite build by far. Yeah. 75mm 2S Tiny Whoop with digital. It's wild, man. It's infinitely light, infinitely quiet, infinitely safe. It rips full HD. Like, it's so much fun. The analog ones, I'll be honest. The flight performance of the analog ones is ridiculous. And so, like, if you have analog goggles, you owe it to yourself to do a 75 2S analog build. It is ridiculous. Buy yourself a Mobula 7 1S ELRS. Swap the battery lead. The motors that it comes with are perfect. You put them at like an 85% motor limit in the PIDS tab of Betaflight. You swap the frames, and it comes with the X12, which works on 2S. That's basically what this is. And like, this is wild. This is so much fun to fly. But when you put digital on them, you get very similar flight performance, but you're flying in HD, and it's got that HD magic, and you've got footage that looks great afterwards. Steve Jobs tagged me, but didn't say, oh, there it is. He says, building an O4 Lite in a Pavo Pico with a custom canopy, also cutting out the battery tray to add his strap. 19,000 kV 2S. Very cool. That'll be a little bit heavy, but 2S has plenty of power. So, yeah, that'll fly like a Cinewhoop. Mario Bean says it's got built-in programmable LEDs. What does? He's probably talking about the Newbie Drone AIO. Newbie Drone usually puts addressable LEDs in, which are pretty cool. Frank Nicholas says the Newbie Drone AIO was sold out by Friday night. I barely snagged one. I had a feeling. Steve Jobs says Happymodel X12. Nope, built-in VTX. You might be able to disable the built-in VTX, but it's just kind of silly to have that, to drag around that built-in VTX. Can somebody confirm whether or not, I think somebody in chat knows this from a previous live stream, and I believe the answer is yes, but can somebody confirm real quick whether or not there's a way to disable the internal VTX on the Happymodel X12? I might be able to actually confirm it right now. I have one right here. This is a 5X loop. If you're into FPV and you don't have one, you're high. Get one. Usually, like I said earlier, there'll be two pads that are bridged together with solder. And I'm looking right at two pads that are bridged together with solder. So that's probably it right there. Ooh, boy. That is that is like right in the middle of the board with a bunch of components around it. But yeah, that's probably it. Usually there'll just be like one of those pads. Yeah, and it looks like that's the only one. So that is either there to turn off the ELRS or the VTX. Usually it's there to turn off the VTX. Because you can't have double VTXs banging away at the same time. It's just, yeah, it's no good. So hopefully somebody in chat has already confirmed that. I'm 99% sure that you could. So yeah, the Happymodel X12 would be an option, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you have one, yeah, all right, it's a free AIO. But you're sacrificing the space that VTX takes up on the board. Thrash FPV says, is a whoop that does a trilling type noise and does a second throttle push, I do not input, a P or D tuning issue? Typically, yep. I can't seem to get it tuned out. Here's the easy button, Thrash. If you think your PIDs are causing an issue, grab your master multiplier and pull it from like 1.0 all the way down to 0.5. It'll fly like ass, but if that behavior goes away, that is like an almost certain sign that your PIDs are too high. Technically, if you dial the filtering in better, if there's room for the filtering to be dialed in better, and then you do that, you might not have to turn the PIDs down. You might be able to leave your PIDs alone, right? Whenever you've got weird issues like that going on, take the props off, put a fresh set of propellers on, see if that helps. If that doesn't help, check if your motor shafts are bent. Go into the motors tab of Betaflight, slowly raise each motor while you're holding the quad and feel for vibrations. Between like 13 and 1400 in the motor slider, that's when most of the vibrations happen. Do one motor, then do the next, then do the next, then do the next. On tiny whoops, you can kind of leave the propellers on. If you really want to check it though, pull the props off with the motor shaft, put your fingernail very lightly against the motor shaft and ramp the motor RPM. There will be a specific RPM, typically between 13 and 1400, where you can feel it the best. Your fingernail is you know, keratin, hard material, and then the motor shaft there, you'll feel if that motor shaft is bent. And then you check the next motor and the next motor and the next motor. They'll usually be the front motors that are vibrating a little bit more. Change those motors out. Physical vibrations are typically what cause the problem that you're describing, especially if that problem didn't exist at some point. If you put a fresh set of motors on and it's flying totally fine, you fly a dozen batteries and now it's exhibiting this behavior, the PIDs are fine. You've mechanically damaged the quad, right? Either the props are banged up, or the motors are banged up, or the frame is broken, or there's a screw that's backed out, right? These are the typical things that are going to cause that problem. Also, it could be a soft mounting issue. If you've got like wires squeezed up in between your AIO and the frame, that's going to hard mount that AIO. You can't have that. The reason why we put these rubber grommets on the AIOs, on the flight controllers, is you want the AIO that has the really sensitive gyro on it to float. And then there's always going to be vibrations. A fresh set of props, a fresh set of motors, there's still going to be vibrations. But that's okay because you got those rubber grommets. So the frame and the motors and the props can vibrate down here, and those rubber grommets will keep the flight controller solid. That's really important. If you then put a wire in between that AIO, it's going to vibrate with everything else because it's hard mounted. The best way to check for these problems is outside in. The farthest out is the propellers. Then it's the motors. Then it's the arms, which are kind of the frame. And then it's the flight controller mounting. Props are the most common cause. Motors are the second most common cause. Broken frame, broken arms, loose screws are the third most common cause. Improper soft mounting is the fourth common cause. Outside in. If you're a fan of or have ever watched Silicon Valley, the HBO show, you know, middle out compression. Their magical thing is middle out compression. With the FPV, it's outside in, not inside out, not middle out, outside in. That's the best way to troubleshoot. Let us know how that goes. Rolando says there's a new cross 12 amp AIO being released by Beta FPV with a 3 amp 5 volt BEC. Yep, we took a look at that earlier in the stream. That is the best AIO for a 1S O4 Lite build. It's not 2S capable though, so it will explode if you put 2S into it. But yeah, for my 1S build, initially, because I have it and it's free, and Timon sent it to me because he's an awesome guy, I have this Happymodel Super X that I'm going to use. But at some point, I'm going to snag one of those Beta FPV Matrix AIOs. Beta FPV has actually been very kind lately, sending me some stuff. So what I'll actually do is shoot him a message on Instagram and say, like, hey, I would love to do a live stream with your Matrix 3-in-1. Any interest? And maybe they'll send me one for nothing. B-Mud Skipper says, what about this flight controller, iFlight F411? Let's take a look. iFlight, who makes the Goku? Is the Goku iFlight? Yeah, fart, I said the wrong thing. Oh no, iFlight makes Blitz, that's right. Goku is Flywoo. Goku is Flywoo. Blitz Whoop AIO, I'm assuming this is the one. Doesn't look like it has ELRS built in. And mounting an external... These manufacturers should be beaten for only having CAD drawings of these things on their websites. Are you out of your mind? Yeah, it doesn't look like it has ELRS built in. I don't see an antenna or a UFL port anywhere on here. Sure, you could mount an external receiver, but that's just silly. We've got a bunch of options that have internal ELRS, and like, yeah, that just makes the build so much cleaner. These tiny whoops are a packaging nightmare, and forcing yourself to try to put an external VTX and an external receiver, you're gonna hate your life. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Brandon's Baked Beans said something, but YouTube scrolled me to the bottom when I didn't want them to. Scrolling back up to try to find my place. Come on now. Oh, wow. There is a lot. I don't know. We're already over time. We're already 20 minutes over. And I have a couples dance class to teach tonight. I don't know if we're going to be able to get caught up on chat here. I'm going to do my best, though. Brandon 15 says, the 10-volt BEC died on my favorite long-range ultralight freestyle rig. I had to move the O3 to VBAT. It died when I tried to turtle out of the grass after crashing half a mile away. Yeah, BECs die, my friends. Sending direct battery voltage to a component, in my opinion, is going to be the best bet, because you're not you're taking one BEC out of the chain, right? If you're running things off of your flight controller's BEC and that flight controller BEC dies, your life becomes a lot more confusing. If you're running full battery voltage to a component and the BEC in the component dies, it was going to die anyway, right? Like, there's nothing you can do about that. The BECs don't die because you're feeding them full battery voltage versus 5 volt or 10 volt. They just seem to kind of die. So running battery voltage into one BEC and then running that into another BEC, that doubles the amount of things that we see die very frequently in FPV builds. So in my opinion, don't do that. And in my experience, don't do that. Bad says, just found Happymodel Super F405 ELRS 3-in-1 has the DJI plug too. I don't know if I'm familiar with that. Let's see. Which one's that? Super F405 HD. So that looks like an oversized AIO. Let's go somewhere that doesn't have stupid snow going on. There's the CrazyF 405. Super F405. January 5th, 2024. Big old plug on it. Okay. So this... Oh, but there's no... No, there is ELRS. Look, they give you the 2.4 antenna. Why do I not know this AIO? 20 amp, Jesus. Is it 1 to 2S or is it 2S to 4S? What is this called? F405HD Super. Okay, so this is 2 to 4S. It's got black box, 20 amp FETs. That's insane. It's got ELRS on board. Okay. ICM 42688 gyro. That's fine. It looks big. This is a big looking AIO. But it doesn't look like anybody sells it though. Happymodel 1S F4 5 amp. No, that's not it. It looks like it's like only on Happymodel's website. Never mind. Defiance RC sells it. Okay, so there's another option for you. Oh, no. Never mind. Never mind. You will hate your life. This is a toothpick AIO, not a tiny whoop AIO. You will have to take this AIO out every single time you want to plug USB into it. Don't do that to yourself. Almost. Almost. Good call. Good find. Toothpick only, though. Neuron FPV says, Happymodel CrazyF405HD 1 to 2S. Everything plug and play. CrazyF405. So that was this one that we looked at. You might have to clearance the battery leads a little bit. The battery bay a little bit. But yeah. Looking like plug and play. Maybe a good option. I don't know anything about it, though. Limits20 says, I have some Mobula 7 frames. How do I know if they're the V3? Look up the Mobula 7 V3 frame on Google, and you'll get pictures of it, and then just compare. It is very obvious. The V3 and the V4 look completely different. Zip says, can't find Mobula 7 frame in stock. What's the next best frame for Mobula 7 1S to 2X conversion? The Mobula 7 V3 is in stock on Amazon. You can buy a 2-pack. It's also in stock on Rotor Riot's website. On Amazon, it's only in the clear color. On Rotor Riot, you can get it in the smoke crotch gray or the clear color. Next best frame. I don't know if there is one. It's that good. The V4 frame, you can only run with the one specific AIO. Apparently, there's an HGLRC 75mm frame. I don't have any experience with it, though. So, yeah, the Mobula 7 V3 frame is the one to go with. Suck it up and order from either Rotor Riot or Amazon. Chromatica says, I've been using the Flywoo HD405 with built-in ELRS on my 2S toothpick. It's amazing. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that, dude. I have not heard much about that Flywoo AIO, so anybody that has any experience with it, please let me know. Jasto says, new Matrix AIO from Beta FPV. What about it? Frank Nicholas says, ELRS receiver on the Super X, is it SPI or UART? Oh boy, I have no idea. That was at 443. Have you figured that out yet, Frank? Tag me and let me know. B-Mud Skipper says, there is a 2 to 4S build from iFlight. I think that's the one that we looked at. It doesn't have ELRS built in. I thought it said tip, Mom. You read what you want to read. It's just TTTT, Mom. Yo, can you tell me what is better for O4? 35, 40, 45 millimeter props and motor 0802, 25,000 kV, 1002, 20. Okay. So no such thing as better, just different. 35 millimeter props, no way, because they're only going to work on a frame that can only hold 1S batteries. So that's a total no. 40 millimeter props are the way to go. 45 millimeter props are only going to work on the Pro frame, which only takes 1S, which is not really what you want. Because I think you said 2S. Now, you didn't specifically say 2S, but the only reason to go 1S is if you're going to bring the weight down as low as possible. This is going to be the heaviest possible option, so don't do it. You're going to hate your life. And then in terms of motors, the 1002s are going to be, the 802s are going to be too small for the amount of weight that you're going to be carrying. 1002 motors are going to be the smallest motor, so if you want to keep the weight down, it's 1002. 1102 are going to be slightly heavier, but they're going to give you a little bit more power. The kV that you want, I talked about earlier, minimum 14 to 15,000 kV. You're going to run that at 100% motor limiting. I prefer 18, 19, or 20,000 kV motors, and then you motor limit them down in the PIDS tab of Betaflight to like 80%, and there you go. I have loads of content here on the channel from the last 6 months answering all those questions, diving into them, flying rigs with all the different motor options. So have at it, brother. You'll get to see lots of flight footage, lots of really good discussions. Willie FPV says, but it is only 1S from Beta FPV. I'm assuming that he's talking about the Matrix board. Yep, it is only 1S. Uriel says, use screw from other side at 449. I don't know what that's in reference to. Tag me again and tell me more. Brandon's Bipine says, I have a 75 millimeter build where a post has broken. I drilled it out 2 millimeters and put a nylon bolt in there, threads directly into the most robust canopy option, the B-Brain V2 canopy. Very cool. I never thought about doing that. Super interesting. The frames are only like $4 or $5. I always keep a couple extras in and I just swap them out. But yeah, that is a really cool fix. That's a really cool option. I like that. Uriel says, wish you the best. See you next time. Damn it. I wonder what Uriel was talking about with using the screw from the other side. Thrash FPV says, I get a white flash on my camera feed, Happymodel X12. It's random and 3 to 5 times in 10 seconds. What could it be? Could be your goggles. If you have another set of goggles, try those. If you have a friend that flies FPV, try his goggles. That's the first easiest thing to check. If it's not the goggles, then the AIO is dying. There's not like a checkbox in Betaflight, like, you know, flash white every 3 to 5 times in 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Like with AIOs, they either work or they don't. If you're on the right channel, try a different antenna. That's not going to be it, but just do it anyway. Make sure that you're on the right channel. That's about it. There's really nothing that you can check. But it could be goggles. Could be a goggle problem. Bad says, it sounds like the AIO is dying though. Bad says, have a great flying day today. It was my son's 3-year-old birthday. Had a half full of kids running around after my whoop losing themselves. Nice. Got some good proximity to people flying in. Very cool, man. Chasing subjects is amazingly fun. TTTTT Mom asking the same question again. B-Mud Skipper says, what do you think of the BonerFPV BattleBones V2 frame? We've looked at that before. It looks very heavy, but if you're going to build a wall quad, it's cool looking. So, yeah. Thrash FPV says, should I use my Happymodel 1102 Mobula 8 motors or igow 802 27,000s? on my 75mm 2S. 27,000 kV is way high for 2S. You're going to be motor limiting down to like 60% probably, which is awful low. You're going to start to lose throttle resolution. You should try them both and make the decision up for yourself. But I'm going to tell you, motor limit the shit out of those 27,000 kVs to make sure that you don't blow the AIO up or the motors up. Thrash also says, to be honest, 75mm on 2S is absolutely incredible. It really is. Render says, thanks for all the fish. You're certainly welcome. I got to rewatch that movie. Oh, maybe Maggie hasn't seen that movie. I'll text her right now. Have you seen... What was the name of the movie? I can like picture all the characters and the movie poster. Oh, you son of a bitch! Why are you fucking 40s, man? Don't turn 40. Die before you turn 40. Your brain just shits itself. So long and thanks for all the fish. Maybe singing it will get me to remember the fucking name of it. Oh my god! 18 people are typing it into chat right now. I will eventually... Somebody tag me in chat with the name of the movie. Son of a bitch. Narun says, thanks... Cam Freeze... Denzel the Turtle says, you set aside an orange BT3 LED plug for me. Still have it. Yes. Somewhere. You got... This might be it right here. Is this it? Nope, this is the white one. I do have it somewhere. Message me, and it's all yours. Bad says, for Cob LEDs on my 75mm, check Discord general nonsense. That's what I was looking for. Oh, fuck you, Canon, you dirty rat hoe. These are the Cob LEDs that are just insane looking. This is where you start to add actual weight, though. But boy, is it cool. I believe Fly High FPV sells these. Super, super, super cool, but you're going to add a legitimate amount of weight. I might just leave this screen on for the chat. I don't know if I have it in me to it doesn't take long. I can read the chat while I'm doing it. Graves says, hey man, you mentioned a Batwing camera mount before when showing two of the whoops. Looked like a 0-degree camera angle. Is it a print? Can it be bought anywhere? One of our very generous members, Timmons, who does 3D design for a living, designed that for us. It is over on my Discord. Link to the Discord is on CiottiFPV.com, and then there's a 3D printing channel on the Discord. Look at, and it looks like there's already people posting in there, and there's a pinned post in there called the Batwing. So yeah, it's in 3D printing, and then the Batwing. It's super awesome. You're going to have to print it for yourself, though, or find somebody to print it for you. At some point, I am going to print a bunch of bat wings. McConnell Studios is sending me a whole bunch of the red sort of translucent SaneSmart TPU that I really like. So, yeah, at some point, I will print a shitload of violet, SaneSmart violet, and red Batwing mounts for you guys to buy on my Etsy store, but I have to properly learn how to use the 3D printer before that happens. On the 12-hour live stream, I plugged it in and went into the menu and hit Benchy, but I didn't actually learn how to use the slicer software or any of that stuff. I have to do that. I'll get there, I promise. Sean Glyph says, I'm in for the 2S life. I have snow outside right now. Should I do conformal coating? I've got no experience with it. A lot of components come from the factory conformal coated. Some of them don't. If you look at a component and it's kind of shiny, that's usually a conformal coating. Yes, you should do conformal coating. It's cheap. It's not difficult to do. Be really careful, because if you get it onto a button or a plug, it is game over. You are not getting it off of those buttons or plugs. So If you're going to fly around water a lot, absolutely you should conformal coat. If it snows once every few years, like it does here in Georgia, maybe don't, because there's that chance that you'll get it onto one of the plugs and then you're done. You know, that PCB is just ruined. So yeah, if that's going to be what I say. I'm not going to give you a straight yes or no. It's all about how often you're flying in waterborne situations. If you're flying around saltwater, maybe don't bother, because the salt water is going to destroy, regardless of the conformal coating, the salt water is going to annihilate stuff. So like, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. Crom says, posted my first draft at the O4 Batwing on the Discord. We'll use it in my 1S demo build to try to let friends try that spec. I'm coming for Timmons' job. Very cool, Crom. I'm sure Timmons would be willing to work together with you. He would probably give you the Batwing file that you can then adapt to the camera. That would be amazing. JP Spin says, didn't know your dad was in Fusion. I am as well. It's an interesting job for sure. Built the plasma acceleration sections for an FRC reactor. Very cool. Yeah, one of the coolest things for me growing up was when my dad would bring me to PPPL, Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, and he would show me around the tokamak fusion reactor. I'm a lucky dude. Super lucky to have that influence in my life. I regret that I didn't go into engineering because, man, what a launch pad, you know, my father would have been. I've learned a lot, but I could have learned so much more. I wasn't interested in it though. I just, if I'd gone into engineering, I don't know, maybe I would have fallen in love, but like I didn't have it in me at the time. I didn't want to go to college at all, to be honest. After high school, I was kind of done with school. I didn't love it. I wanted to start working. I wanted to start making money. I'm super glad that my parents nudged me towards college and I got a communications degree in TV radio. But I was not interested in working hard, and I knew that being an engineering major would have been a lot of hard work. And I wasn't into it. I could probably blame it on the mental illness shit. You know, depression has a way of kind of making you lazy, because like you're fighting so hard against just being able to like function and stay alive, really, that like you're almost constantly like out of gas. You're like, you always kind of feel like mentally you're running on empty. And so, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's a really good thing that I didn't go into engineering. Maybe that would have pushed me over the edge, and I would have had, you know, the inevitable meltdown that I did in my 30s a lot earlier. And maybe I wouldn't have made it out of it. So maybe that, you know, maybe that was the universe's way of keeping me here. But yeah, I do wish that I had, because like with FPV, it's really, I've really fallen in love with the engineering side of FPV, certain elements of it. A lot of like the aerodynamics are fascinating to me, but I'm a very different person now, you know. Maybe I wouldn't have fallen in love with it back then. Maybe I didn't have it in me 20 years ago, right? So yeah. I used to have a real fear of regret, working on not regretting things. I've worked a lot on not regretting things in the many years of talk therapy that I've been in. And that's what you guys just got to see, actually. You got to see me fall into the regret trap and then dig myself out of it pretty quickly, which is what a lot of, a lot of talk therapy, or a really good talk therapist will teach you how to do. So check it out, friends. If you have health insurance, go to a talk therapist and figure out how your brain works, and you'll live a better life. It's life-changing stuff for sure. And if you have health insurance, you can probably go for like $20 a session, which is an incredible deal. I pay $150 a session, but I'm alive because of it, and so that's worth it. Pito801 says, I vaguely remember that maybe you talked about it, but the 2G4 I managed to strip the UFL from was probably because the ball sack canopy is too close to the camera and kicked the UFL during a crash. I've not had problems with the UFL on the 2G4. I have had problems with the ceramic antenna getting knocked off. But yeah, the UFL I've never had an issue with. There's just enough clearance. I guess maybe you could hit hard enough, but I've hit 2G4s more and harder than anyone on Earth. So I'll bet that I can see what you're saying, but I'll bet you it didn't have to do with the ball sack canopy. It's bad enough that I call it the ball sack canopy. The fact that I've encouraged hundreds, if not thousands of people to call it the ball sack canopy. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if I should be ashamed about that or if I should celebrate that, but here we are. Danzilla says, who uses analog anymore? It's not the 80s. I do. Everybody that wants good flight performance does. All the people in the know still fly analog. How about that? Hold on, I'm scrolling back up. YouTube did the thing again. Scroll me to the bottom. Hey, I'm almost caught up on chat. Danzilla Terrible says, Brandon's Beans, don't you know CiottiFPV only goes so he can touch other women? So like January of 2024, Maggie, my partner Maggie, was a phenomenal belly dancer for many years, an instructor for a while, a dance fitness instructor. She's got this incredible history of dance. I've known that since very early on meeting her. I've always kind of had this feeling that, like, if I was in a room of people, like the dude in that room that knew how to dance, he was kind of like the coolest guy. Like, I don't know, it's just like a cool thing, man. Like, not many guys know how to dance, and like, I don't know, it's just fucking cool. Like, no, like a song that makes your brain wrinkle comes on, and it's like knowing how to move your body in a way that like makes everybody else be like, oh damn, like, you know, like that's just cool. That's always, but I never touched it, never did any dance, anything at all. You know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and like dance was gay and gay was bad, right? So like I never thought twice about it. It was just never like on my radar to actually dance, learn how to dance, right? You can't just dance, you have to learn how to dance. It's a thing. If you haven't learned how to dance and you think you know how to dance, you should go learn how to dance, because you probably look silly. That's okay though. I mean, who cares what anybody else thinks about you if you're having a good time? But a year ago, Maggie saw a Facebook ad for a couples dance class at the local bar here to us that we first met. We went on our first date. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, super, super interesting. Like, I've always kind of been like, oh, dance is kind of neat. I'm now 43, brave enough to do hard things. Awesome. B, like, ooh, Maggie will love that. I'll be, you know, the dreamboat dude, like willing to go couples dance. And couples dance, you can hide behind your partner, right? like individual, like learning to dance, just individual dancing, like, ooh boy, that's intimidating as hell. But like couples dance, it's like, well, yo, let's both go and look like idiots, and then I'll feel 50% less dumb because you'll be there with me. And with Maggie, it's like, you know, she knows how to dance, so she'll make it look good. I can just stand there. Nobody will be looking at me. And so we went, and it was awesome. And I had a total blast. Couples dance is fantastic because, like, the basis behind couples dance is communicating with the other person non-verbally, right? And that we don't do much of that anymore. And so I had a blast, and that dance class was taught by a guy named Wilder. And he was a super cool guy, and we went pretty much every Sunday last year. And I learned how to couples dance, and I kind of fell in love. He introduced me to a specific kind of couples dance called West Coast Swing that I like really kind of fell in love with, and started going on Wednesday nights to a West Coast Swing specific couples dance class. A few months ago, I actually started taking private lessons with one of the instructors from there every other Tuesday. Super fun. If you've never seen West Coast Swing, just search it on YouTube. It's an improv dance. You will see people like the at the upper levels. You'll see them dancing, and you'll be like, "No fucking way, that's improv. That is absolutely choreographed. They've been working on that for months." Nope, it's improv. They're insane. It's wild what two people that are really good at West Coast Swing that have never danced before can do to music. It's really, really cool stuff. And so Wilder taught me couples dance every single Sunday this year. And then I refined my West Coast Swing stuff on Wednesday nights. A couple of weeks after the election, unfortunately, Wilder took his own life. And I didn't know that he had depression. I knew that he had anxiety. And for me, someone that's lived with depression for 43 years, to not know that someone that I'd become friends with and that I saw every single Sunday didn't have it, or I didn't know that he had it. That is how sneaky depression is, and that is how hard it is to tell, right? Like, if anybody should have been able to tell, it's me, right? Somebody that has an FPV therapy text channel on his Discord, an FPV therapy Facebook group, somebody that talks about it every other live stream, right? You have people in your life that struggle with depression every single day of their lives, and you have no idea. You are probably not as good at me as spotting it, right? So keep that in mind, because that's important. The Sunday dance class, I refuse to let it go away. And Maggie and I are the two of Wilder's students that went the most. And so we learned the most about his style of teaching and what he taught. And so I just said, you know what? Like, I'm not that great at dancing yet, but I learned enough from Wilder that I'm going to turn this into, like, we're calling it like a dance club. But yeah, I go on Sundays, and we've had a couple other people that have stepped up to teach specific stuff, tango, bachata, which has been great. But yeah, Sundays, I will do everything I possibly can to keep this going, to keep this group of people. You know, we've got like this core group of like 20 people that came to most of these, and we've become great friends. And so, yeah, that's what my Sunday nights are from 7 to 9, is keeping this thing going. And what's been cool is Wilder never really dove into West Coast Swing because it's tough to teach beginners. He kept it as like a really beginner class. We have this core group of folks, right? The Facebook ads have now stopped, so we don't get as many new people, but we have this core group, and they're interested in West Coast Swing. So all of this learning that I've done with that, I've been able to share with them, which has been great, because I'm starting to get somewhat decent at West Coast Swing, so I'm somewhat able to teach it. And so, yeah, there you guys go. Those are my Sunday nights after these live streams. Brad Mondin says Darwin has ELRS version, ELRS 1 to 3. We looked it up, and it didn't look like it had ELRS built in. Frank Nicholas says, yes, ELRS is UART per someone later in chat. Awesome. Michael Kajas says, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Thank you so much. I couldn't think of the name of that movie a little bit ago. And the last comment of the live stream is from Pito801. He says, not camera, but the front foot of the canopy is too close, almost touching. What? Brad Mondin says you looked at the wrong one. Okay, cool. Pito, tell me more. What are we talking about here? Not camera, but the front foot of the canopy is too close. I don't know what we're talking about. Darwin. Let's see if there's a Darwin AIO. Darwin AIO 1. 2, 3, S. So I think this is the one that I looked at. So let's click on a couple other ones. See what we got. So, oh, so there it is. So there's the UFL port for ELRS. Okay, so Darwin does have an AIO that will work. This is a big. This is big. See the. So let's look at an X12. The X12 is an oversized AIO that will only really work in the Mobula 7 V3 and V4 frame, which is kind of fine because that's the frame that we're talking about for these 75mm 2S builds. And so if you look, I'm trying to find a picture that's straight on. So if you look at the hole for the grommet and then you draw a line for this part of the AIO here, you can see that like it's basically in line with the outer part of the grommet, right? And the X12 is considered to be an oversized AIO. It's as big as you're going to fit into the frames that we're talking about. So now we look at the Darwin, and we can kind of draw that same straight line. So this looks like it is pretty big, but it also kind of looks like it might still clear. The location of the motor plugs is looking good. So yeah, this might be an option. This might be an option. I don't know anything about it. And it is kind of big looking, but ooh, 50 bucks is a good price. And Darwin FPV apparently makes really good stuff. So this is a total contender. Good call, guys. I like it. ELRS port is off on the side here, which is a little weird, but I mean, that'll be fine. Cool. Good find, fellas. Brad Monin says, but it's only 36 bucks if it works. Pito says, ballsack canopy versus 2G4 UFL. Not camera, but the front foot of the canopy. Oh, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it is close. It is close. I've never had that problem, though. I've been flying 2G4s forever, and I've never had the UFL get knocked off. I see what you're saying, though. You could totally just clearance that if you're worried about that. I have done that on the feet of the ball sack canopy. I've clearanced them a bunch and they've never broken. So there you go. BMF Spade says Power has RunCam Nano 3s. I bought the last ones that they had. Did they get more? Oh, come on now. Wow, they got more. I'll be damned. There you guys go. RunCam Nano 3s in stock at Pyrodrone. You're going to have to direct solder them. Oh, shit. You're going to have to direct solder them or swap the cable out. But yeah, this is my favorite Tiny Whoop camera to use in the Mobula 6 canopy. I'll be damned. This is the Emax Tiny Hawk version, which is really bright. Some people like that, some people don't. But yeah, there you go. Nano 3's in stock. Good call, fellas. Thanks for hanging, friends. This was a big live stream. There were tons of people in here. If you're new to the channel, head on over to CiottiFPV.com and click some buttons. Do the subscription thing. Click the thumbs up. Love you. I'll be here again tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. See you then. I'm not ready. What flying am I going to play? More of the same flight from the beginning of the live stream. This is the flight performance that we're going to get from the DJI O4 Lite 2S 75mm builds. I'll leave the OSD on this time in case you want to see that. Love you. Bye. See you tomorrow night.